Good morning. My name is Barbara Fuller, and as chair of the board, I welcome you to this January 20th, 2026 working session of the Washtenaw County Board of Road Commissioners. Shelby Rockawick, our office coordinator, will describe how our meetings operate, how to access the agenda packet, and how people may participate remotely. Shelby.
There are multiple ways to make public comment during today's working session, whether you are joining us in person or virtually. If you are here in person and would like to make public comment, please fill out the sign-in sheet now. If you are joining us virtually, we will ask you to raise your hand at the appropriate time in the agenda. If you are joining us virtually and are experiencing technical issues with audio or video during the meeting, submit a comment in the chat feature and our communications manager will help you troubleshoot. If you would like closed captioning during this meeting, you will have to manually change your settings. Click on the Captions button and select Show Captions. The audio and video of this meeting is being recorded, and a link to the recording is posted to wcroads.org in the next few days. There are printed copies of today's meeting agenda on the table near the front door, and it's also posted on our website. And now I'll turn it over to Chair Fuller.
Thank you, Shelby. I now call this January 20th, 2026 working session to order and ask Shelby to call the roll.
Chair Barb Fuller.
Present.
Vice Chair Rod Green.
Present.
Commissioner Gloria Llamas.
Present.
Commissioner Joanne McCullum.
Present.
Commissioner Jeff Smers.
Present.
The following directors are in attendance. Managing Director Matt Washtenaw, Director of Engineering and County Highway Engineer Brent Schlack, Director of Finance Dan Ackerman.
Very good. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Support.
Additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, Shelby, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Rod Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Joanne McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Gloria Llamas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Smers.
Yes.
Commissioner Barb Fuller.
Yes, the agenda is approved as presented. We'll move on to public comment. This is the time set aside on the agenda to receive comments from the public. This is not intended to be a period for dialogue. Each person will be allotted 3 minutes to address the board, and Shelby will explain how people may be recognized to offer comments.
Since this is a hybrid meeting with both in-person and virtual attendees, we will take turns between those attending in person and virtually. For virtual attendees, we have provided some instructions on the screen on how to participate and make public comment. If you're attending this meeting virtually and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand now. If you dialed into the meeting from your phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. Our communications manager will unmute virtual participants with raised hands one at a time and will announce your username or last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to speak. Please share your name and address before beginning your comments. For in-person attendees, we will start with those of you who have signed up on the sign-in sheet as you walked in. If you didn't sign in, you are still welcome to make comment. Our communications manager will notify you when it's your turn.
Thank you.
At this time, we do not have public comment.
All right. We will move on to the business portion of the working session, and I will turn things over to Mr. Washtenaw, Managing Director.
Thank you, Chair Fuller. First on the agenda today is Worker Road Project Update. I would like to invite up Brent Schlack and Aaron Burkholz. They're going to give us a presentation on where we're at with the Worker Road Project. As you're aware, we've received a lot of feedback on this project and wanted to provide an opportunity for discussion and an update on the status and answer questions. This is all in preparation for our upcoming public meetings, which Brent, I'm sure has in the slide deck
we do.
as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Brent.
Great. Thanks. Brent Schlack, Director of Engineering. Go ahead, Aaron.
Aaron Burkholz, Assistant Director of Engineering.
So I'll just give you some updates, just some basic background on our project, and then Aaron will go into the more details of what the specifics are, what our scope is, and what we've looked at for that project. So Working Road, it's located just west of Chelsea, I guess northwest. These are the limits. It's between Sibley to the south and M52 to the north. Ivy is just about bisects the road somewhat. So this is the segment of roadway that we're looking to improve along. Then this is a millage project, and we'll go into some greater detail on that. Our project selection So, like I said, this was a part of our 4-year roads and non-motorized, millage. How we selected this, we use asset management, strategies, where we look at the rating of the road, and then we determine what that improvement should be based on how that road is rated. It's currently rated at a 2, and that's from Sibley all the way to M52. We will get into some more details because we looked a little bit closer as we work through the design. But those are the strategies when we looked at project selection. As you're aware, through the millage, whenever we collect those funds through the millage, whatever is raised within that community goes back into that community. And that's what the case is here for Working Road. This is in Sylvan Township. And so the funds that were raised within Sylvan Township, part of this project, then go back into that community.
Good reminder.
This project was originally scheduled for 2025. But as we started looking at the millage and preparing for that, we felt that it was better suited for a design through a consultant. And Aaron will kind of get into more details of that, on why we chose to go with a consultant. But one of those was due to being context sensitive with some of the trees within that corridor. One other point to make, through the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners, they have an MOU, a memo of understanding, that we approve through this board, that would require us to look at that millage through the roads and non-motorized millage, to look at 25% of our projects to incorporate some type of non-motorized road widening or shoulder widening, not road widening, but shoulder widening to accommodate that non-motorized component of our roadway system. So as we looked at this scope and due to the condition of the road, that's where we've our improvement was to pulverize and resurface the road, which is essentially a reconstruct. And to comply with that 25%, that's one aspect of why we would look to widen those shoulders, along with drainage, which is another big portion of that. Now to go into a little bit of detail. So the speed limit of this road is 55 miles an hour prima facie, which prima facie is Latin, which means on the face of it. So it's not an absolute speed limit. It's 55 hours based on conditions of the road. As you're aware, and we've had several discussions with this board about speed limits. Speed limits are established based on a 3-party agreement between us, the Michigan State Police, and the township. Michigan State Police does hold the official study whenever we're looking to establish a speed limit other than what is currently posted. So if there's a reduction that's requested, then we would have to engage the Michigan State Police to then further evaluate that roadway to look for some type of reduction. It's a very lengthy process, one that is not a top priority for Michigan State Police, but one that, as we look at the data for this road, it currently supports that prima facie speed limit of 55 miles an hour.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes, I was looking up, trying to find which township this was in. It's kind of
It's in Sylvan Township.
Sylvan.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And a portion of this roadway is actually within the city of Chelsea. So that segment that is between Ivy and Sibley, the eastern side of Workner is in the city of Chelsea. And that'll be a important point to note as we start to drive and understand some of our scope. Yeah.
So from Ivy to 52, that's
So from
township?
Ivy to 52 is township. Yes, correct.
On the east side of the road,
Oh.
Yep.
Workner Road,
I
Yeah.
see.
south of Ivy,
So this
is the city of Chelsea.
Oh, okay.
You can highlight, there's also a city of Chelsea water.
yeah. So right
treatment.
here, there's a water treatment plant.
I wouldn't see your cursor, but
Oh, you don't see that.
yeah,
Oh.
it's right
Oh.
on east side, halfway between Ivy and Sibley. So,
I don't know if that did anything.
You have-
also, I would just want to make sure, when we have a prima facie
Can you see
speed.
it now?
Yep, there
Oh,
it
there
is.
we go.
Yep.
So this is the water treatment plant.
Chelsea City.
Chelsea City, yeah. And then basically from Ivy to Sibley on the eastern half of Workner Road.
Those are all parcels in the city of Chelsea.
Oh, right, that was the other.
The roadway is our road, but it's not uncommon sometimes where you have city residents living alongside a road that is a different jurisdiction.
Commissioner Green?
Thank you. So is this the project where there's been a lot of controversy about widening the road?
This is the project that we've had several folks that have attended our most recent board meetings concerned about the widening of the road. We are not widening the lanes. We were looking to widen the shoulder of
see.
the road.
Okay, so now who asked for this project?
So
Us?
as we evaluated through asset management practices, as we evaluated our whole county, looking at the county millage, Workner Road, due to the condition of the road, really came out as a project that we needed to address through the millage. So it was the road commission, and then we present that to the townships and the cities, our map and our list of what we're looking at and what that improvement is as we're looking to move that millage forward. So, and to the county board, or the Board of Commissioners, the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners, we provide a map and a list of all of those projects that we're looking. But those are chosen based on our review and our recommendation.
Yeah, and the millage provides for a nice opportunity to address some of our poor payments. Again, this is a county road. It's a primary road. So it's a primary road, 100% our responsibility. It's
Okay.
not the townships. It's a primary road. It's our responsibility. And we don't have a lot of funding sources to address poor condition payments. It's an expensive fix. So we saw the millage as an opportunity to address it. The millage doesn't have the strings of like federal aid. If we were to do federal aid, we would absolutely have to do shoulder widening to meet the requirements of federal aid. But this being local funds, we have some flexibility. And I think Brent and Aaron Burkholz are going to get into the details of the scope.
Yep.
So my main question is, do the townships have to concur with this project or no? It sounds like they don't.
They do not.
No.
They do not. We ask for their opinion, and we ask if they have an issue or if they have other recommendations, but we do not require, or we don't require their buy-in.
And I think by and large, the township and all the residents understand that the pavement condition is in poor, and they're in favor of improving the pavement condition. So the issue is the shoulder widening, and again, we're going to get into the scope of work.
Okay, I guess I'm sorry. I was always under the impression that with the millage projects, that the township had some input as to what gets selected. But I guess the answer to that question is no.
They have input.
They do.
Absolutely. But ultimately, we put a plan forth. We ask for comments. If we receive none, then we move forward with the plan.
Okay.
And we did not receive any comments
Oh, okay.
from Sylvan Township.
Okay.
And that's the reality. One thing that I think is very unique and why our millage is very successful is we put a plan forth and we say, here's the road commission's plan with this. We get input. If we don't receive input, then we say, this is the plan. And the voters can decide whether this is what we'll do with the money, essentially.
Right.
And then the voters can go to the ballot and say yay or nay. And then it's our job is to go execute that plan.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing.
All right.
Yep.
And I think it's worth pointing out, this is different from the annual agreements
Yeah.
that the townships
Right.
sign up for.
That's
Right.
local roads.
Right.
Whereas this is a primary road.
But the
Right.
pots of money are different. And this is based on Paiser rating. We were, right,
Most of our planning countywide is due to our Paiser rating. If it's a hard paved surface, most of our decisions on what type of improvement or what type of project to look at is based on those rates, based on asset management practices.
right.
And then our local roads, which are Majority of those are soft surface roads. Those are, based on our review and communication with the township.
What was the appraiser rating on Whipner Road?
It's a 2.
Oh, okay, that's low.
So and just to give some context, it's a scale of 1 to 10,
Right.
with 1 being poor and 10 being the best
Right.
condition. So it's currently rated as a 2. And that would be from Sibley all the way to Werkner. But we've looked closer through our design, and Aaron will get into more detail on what those decisions are with our scope. Because that condition of that pavement does vary through that whole segment.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner, oh, sorry, all set, Rod?
Yes.
Commissioner Yamas?
I understand how we chose that road, but you stated you chose a contractor to do what?
So we chose a consultant to look at the preliminary engineering, the design
Okay.
of this roadway. As we were looking at our millage plan and all of our projects, we saw Werkner Road, and as we looked at, we drove the road and we were like, this would be a good segment of road for a consultant to design, mainly due to that drainage and some of our concerns for the trees along Werkner Road. So we felt it was in our best interest to have a consultant look at it, which would then include survey and condition of that, and look further into the condition of that pavement, and then look at a drainage plan for Werkner Road.
So given that there may be potential significant impacts to some of the trees and properties, to reestablish good drainage, because when you invest, you want to make sure the water has some place to go. Normally, when we do pulverize and pave, that's the fix, so to speak, for a lot of our poor condition roads with the millage plan. We don't go and have a design team prepare plans. But because of all the details of this road segment, we thought it very appropriate to go ahead and hire a design team, and then overseen by our engineering department. So,
right.
For example, we have a project that's not far away, Bush Road. We're doing a pulverize and pave. You can see it on the screen, actually. Bush Road is not far. It's just north of Sibley. We're doing a pulverize and pave. We have no design plans because it's going to have minimal impacts.
Okay. One more question.
Go ahead.
So I know this is already an investment, so we've already paid for that to do. So they determined how wide the shoulder, or that's already determined by?
The determination on shoulder, which they'll get into, is a road commission decision.
Okay.
They make recommendations. We tell them, here's the scope of work. Here's what we want the design parameters, which have changed. And ultimately then they determine the impacts. Here's the grading impacts. Here's where the drainage goes. And again, they're going to get into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're looking at, speed, volume of the road, what's the percentage of trucks along Werkner Road. And so they're making a recommendation. And if like Matt had said earlier, if we were to use federal dollars, we would be required to widen these shoulders at a minimum of 3 foot paved with a 3 foot gravel. 6 feet would be our requirement if we were to use federal dollars. So that's kind of our starting point. Is we kind of adjust that a little bit because we like that paved surface. So we do 4 foot paved, 2 foot gravel. So that's kind of our starting point. But that's as we've looked closer at Werkner Road, we've made some adjustments, and Aaron will get into those details here in a minute.
Thank you.
So lots of details to come.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So getting back to detail, so the traffic volume is approximately 750 vehicles per day, which is kind of on the lower end of volume. But like I just stated, the one aspect that was a good statistic that was really interesting was they have over 30% of that volume is truck traffic. And there's an industrial portion just south of there. And so when we're looking at that type of traffic and the edge of the road, and potentially for that edge of the road to break off, That's a very high percentage of truck traffic that would be traveling using Workner Road. The crash history, we also looked at that. It is minimal. We've had a lot of deer, wildlife crashes. We did have one angle crash, and then we had another crash where a vehicle was turning around in the road, doing a U-turn. But they were all property damage. There was no injuries for this. But as we look at the full life, and we were looking at a fix of a 20-year fix, looking at a pulverize and pave. So we're trying to look at the risks of that roadway through that full 20 years. So now I'll hand it over to Aaron, and he can kind of get into the more details. We'll first look at the condition of the road. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you, Brent. And again, Aaron Burkholz, the Assistant Director of Engineering here at the Road Commission. I just want to reiterate what was discussed a little bit earlier. Brent touched on it. Again, this was part of our planning for the current 4-year road and non-motorized millage. So as we sat down here at the Road Commission and started to determine where those investments were going to take place, Workner Road jumped out in Sylvan Township because of its poor condition rating. Again, it being a 2 on the pacer, and you'll see here in one of the pictures that's currently being displayed there on the left, you don't have to be an engineer to know that that road is pretty much completely failed. And so this clearly was a road that needed investment. We appreciate the opportunity we have through the millage that is being supported by the voters here in Washtenaw County to improve roads like Workner Road. Again, this being a primary county road that carries about 30% truck traffic, it's an important road. It's important to not only the property owners, the residents that live along this road, but also for that commerce that goes to the south. Because along the south side of Sibley Road is the City of Chelsea Industrial Park. So that brings about mixed feelings. Certainly, the industrial park appreciates the fact that they can use Workner Road to come to and from. Understandably, some of the property owners and residents along here don't like seeing that volume of truck traffic. But the reality is this road is open to trucks. So that being said, during that planning for the current millage, we identified this as an investment to take place. Based on the condition of it, we programmed it initially for 2025. Because of it being in such poor condition, we felt this was one we needed to get on early in the millage. As we went out and we started to do some early scoping, it became apparent to us that an improvement that would involve pulverizing and resurfacing would potentially have impacts along the roadside, would potentially have impacts on trees and on adjacent properties along their frontages. And so we wisely engaged a design consultant. Matt mentioned before that just to the west of this project is Bush Road. It's the same scope of work. It's a pulverization with a resurfacing. We're going to put 4-foot shoulders along each side of Bush Road, the same that's been proposed for Workner Road. But Bush Road does not have the same level of impact along the frontages of those properties. So again, we wisely decided to pause this project and say, no, we're going to push this to 2026, and we're going to engage a design consultant to support the decision-making, to put together a specific set of plans so that there can be a discussion with these property owners. We wanted to have a basis for a discussion and not just go out there, I'll say, with the back of the envelope type design. We wanted to have some good basis and some good reasoning before we started to consider impacts on the adjacent properties. As we've been scoping the project, we do have an interesting difference in 2 segments of the road here. So on the left is the majority of the road between Sibley and M52. The majority of the road looks like the picture on the left. Again, I'll say completely failed. The repair for this needs to be a pulverization with an overlay. As we get into a pulverization, we start to look at shoulder widths. we look at shoulder width for a variety of reasons. Brent already mentioned that it does support non-motorized initiatives. Right now, this road essentially has no shoulder. There was likely a shoulder there once upon a time. Over time, as the road started to deteriorate, the shoulder started to become overgrown, and eventually you really don't have a shoulder. In this segment, you can see that the center line, the yellow center line is present. You can see like the hint of a white edge line to the right of the picture, and you don't really see a white edge line to the left of the picture. And that's because the road is so deteriorated, you can't really keep a painted line on this road. So there's really no provision here for non-motorized use, except that would have to be within the traveled lane. There is no shoulder area. So again, Brent pointed out that as part of the millage collaboration with the County Board of Commissioners, they made it known to us that they really wanted the Road Commission to look at opportunities for non-motorized investments, for enhancements. The millage itself is the road and non-motorized millage. So that's a component of it. Oftentimes with these pulverizations and resurfacing, that provides us with the opportunity to include shoulder improvements, to include shoulder widening, to accommodate non-motorized users, pedestrians and bicyclists. We also look at to have that shoulder along there, Brent pointed it out, it supports the roadway structure, particularly with a road like this that carries a significant amount of trucks. You want to have that support to the outside edge, not just for the trucks traveling to and from, but also you think about things like garbage trucks. Garbage trucks ride the shoulder. School buses are always pulling over and picking up students. They use the shoulder. Our trucks, when we do winter maintenance, we use the shoulder to be able to push that snow off the road and have a storage area to get that snow out of the traveled lane. Then we even use our wing plows to push that snow back off the shoulder. So there's a variety of important reasons to have a good shoulder along a road. So again, as we look at the left picture, that would be a crush and shape, a pulverize and pave. To the right of the picture.
Aaron, can you just review what a pulverized and paved?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to, Matt. So again, we would bring a pulverizing machine. We would hire a contractor to bring a pulverizing machine out. They would use that machine to crush up that existing failed asphalt pavement. That pavement would be blended with some of the underlying stone material, some of that stone base that's underneath this road. So you basically, you modify that material, you crush it up, you blend it, and then you grade that material, you compact that material, and it becomes the base for the new asphalt pavement. And then we go back in and we put 3 or 4 inches of new asphalt on top of that modified material, that new base for the road. And again, it's a longer term investment. Brent mentions that typically we're looking at like a 20-year investment with a pulverization and resurfacing, whereas a mill and fill, and again, to provide a brief description there, is where we would mill off typically 2 inches of the existing pavement, we would remove it, and then replace it with 2 inches of new asphalt. You know, that's not as it's not as expensive to do a mill and fill, and it doesn't have the same longevity as a pulverization with a resurfacing.
Go ahead, Joanne.
Oh, I was just going to ask, there was a public comment about by widening the shoulders. I mean, the person also asked about technical basis for the safety of this, which I think you went over. But the person also said by widening it and having a shoulder, would this cause increase in speed and crashes?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. We did talk with that resident. So the study that they were referencing was about operating speeds on rural roads. And so even within that same study, within the conclusion, it did reference that the nominal increase, there would be an increase in speed, but it would be nominal based on the actual improvements of crashes you would receive by having a shoulder. So actually within that study, it recommended that you would have up to a 6-foot paved shoulder or 6-foot shoulder to improve the safety of that roadway. So that study was kind of taken out of context on what the actual, it was mainly about operating speeds on a rural road, mainly within curves. And it did reference that to have a widened shoulder did improve the safety of the roadway. And we also see that whenever we apply for safety grants, that's a crash reduction factor to have a widened shoulder. And so it actually is for every foot of a widened shoulder, it's a 5% reduction in crashes. So you can imagine, so we're looking at, for a 6-foot shoulder, you're looking at a 30% reduction in crashes as we look at applying for safety funds.
Thank you.
Well,
And
Brent,
thank you for
the scope
following
of
up.
this project is not a 6-foot, it's a
Correct.
4-foot.
Right, correct, yeah.
Okay, just to make sure.
Yeah, so that would be a 20% reduction in crashes.
Thank you. Thank you for following up with that.
Mhm.
I just want to remind myself and others, the roads and non-motorized millage requires 20% of the entire capture from that millage goes to non-motorized. It goes to Parks and Recreation to spend on non-motorized. In addition, the Road Commission is obligated to find a 25% of the piece that the Road Commission receives to put towards non-motorized. So 20% right off the top from the whole thing. Then what the Road Commission has to work with, there's another 25% of that piece that we are expected to put towards non-motorized, just to be clear about the impact of the desire for non-motorized improvements. Commissioner Green?
So if we're going to repulverize and reconstruct the road, are we also going to put in place some space for non-motorized vehicles? And is that going to further impact the widening of the shoulders?
No, the widened shoulder would be that additional space for that non-motorized. There's a lot of factors that we look at for why those widened shoulders. One of those is non-motorized, but it's also the drainage would then improve along Workner Road. The drainage is what really kills our road, which really impacts our roadway surface. So it would be that 4-foot shoulder. And then we would improve for any type of drainage, whether that, and we'll get into some details on what those improvements are. But no, we would not put an additional non-motorized facility beyond that 4-foot shoulder, if that answers
The
your question.
shoulder has multiple benefits. That's what Brent and Aaron have kind of outlined. There's multiple benefits to having a shoulder on a road, safety being one of them. The pavement, protecting that investment is another. So again, we're just looking at a 2-foot paved, 2-foot gravel shoulder for Workner Road for this pulverize and pave. We've heard from residents and rightfully so have pointed out there's a trail east of this location that provides for a nice non-motorized that connects to the trail on M52. So there are other routes for people that want to take a walk that rather than to use Workner Road, which is a good thing. Again, we're looking to modify to make an appropriate decision for this specific road, and we landed on the 2-foot paved, 2-foot gravel for the pulverized section. I also like to point out on the picture on the left, ask yourself, where does the water go? Why does the edge of the road look like it does? Because there's nowhere for the water to go.
Right.
That's the reality of that. And in order to find a place for the water to go, there's going to be impacts. And ultimately, when we do a project of this magnitude, we comply with our public engagement policy. And we make sure we understand those impacts. That's why we have the design. And then we schedule a public information meeting to convey those impacts to the public and the why. We're doing that as a precursor to this board because we've received a lot of feedback. So that's what we're having this discussion. But ultimately, we're going to have the same discussion with the public at the public meeting. And we're going to also have the plans in a format where we'll understand the impacts. We don't have that today. So we're just talking in generalities as we continue with the presentation.
Okay, and so given the concerns of the public that we've already heard, what can we do to address their concerns? Is it a matter of just
Are you going to get into
more
that?
education?
Yeah, so,
More
yeah,
education?
yeah, we're holding you to, we have that coming up. That we are gonna go through what our plans are, what we've heard from the public, how we're being context sensitive to this area, and how we've adjusted our scope. And so we're gonna go through in detail what our scope changes. Unfortunately, we don't have the design completed as far as what all those impacts are. We will have some impacts, but we feel that we've reduced a lot of those impacts.
Okay.
Could I have a vocabulary lesson? Am I looking at wedging?
You are.
Yeah, and in fact, yes, so.
Wedging to me doesn't,
Yeah, so I believe what's occurred on the left over time is as funds were not available for the road commission to improve this primary county road, we would go out and we would wedge the outsides of the road. So the outside of the road was failing. Since we didn't have the funds at that time to improve the road, we had an asphalt contractor go out and basically just pull a long hot patch along the outside edge of the road. And then we would go back and chip seal that typically. So you're essentially trying to build some structure to the outsides. Again, asphalt's quite expensive, so you don't want to use a lot of asphalt, and then you come back through with the chip seal. But when you do that, you know it's a short-lived Band-Aid, that you're just trying to make some improvement. You can't afford to do much. So what you see is indeed that's wedging along the outsides of that road.
And it's been done several times.
Yes.
It's a costly and not effective fix. It's better than pothole patching. It got to the point where we couldn't do pothole patching, and this is what we had to do to keep it open. Because we've closed roads where the condition got so bad, we had to actually close the road. And Werkner is not far from that.
I just always wondered, wedging, the word doesn't make sense with
That-
what I see. So I
That
appreciate
is wedging.
the visual.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And then, I'll refer, bless you, I'll refer to the picture on the right. So again, believe it or not, that also is Werkner Road. And we referenced previously the City of Chelsea water plant. The entrance is there on the left-hand side of that picture. You can see the green and white sign. That's the driveway to the City of Chelsea water plant. I shared with Commissioner Fuller earlier that I have a hard time thinking of roads unless it's from south to north and from west to east. Because with the time that I've spent doing this type of work, our design plans are always south to north and west to east. So the picture on the right's throwing me off a little bit because it's looking to the south. But for illustration purposes, basically we're looking from the entrance at the city water plant to the south towards Sibley Road. From here to Sibley Road is about 1,200 feet. Well, the condition of that pavement is far different. You can see it in the picture. And so really to look at the surface condition of that pavement, that would be an opportunity to use a mill and fill, where basically we would not perform a pulverization and a resurfacing. We would not crush that material up. We would simply remove 2 inches of that existing surface and repave it. Typically, when we do a mill and fill, we do not widen the shoulders. That's not part of that scope of work. And so what we've discussed with the design consultant is the idea of there being 2 fixes applied to Werkner Road. From just north of the water plant to the south to Sibley Road, that 1,200 feet would be a mill and fill. To the north, because of the deterioration of the road, that has to be a pulverization with an overlay. The road won't support a mill and resurface. That would be misuse of funds because it's not the investment that's going to improve that road.
Commissioner Smers?
Can you guys go back to the previous picture, please?
Sure.
So, I mean, I've been doing.
One more
road-
beyond that, or?
No, that's it.
Oh, okay.
I've been doing roads a long time. You guys and I talk all the time about this stuff.
Yep.
One thing that Matt, you guys have talked about several times, look at the water drainage on the left, look at the water drainage on the right. The drainage from the right goes off into the fields. It dips down.
Yeah,
The one on the left, all the water comes down onto the road.
sure.
You're basically driving on a waterbed. By the time that gets waterlogged, everything fails. Everything on the right is because the drainage, the water comes out from underneath it. It's the same concept of getting it out from underneath the foundation of your house. As the truck goes down, as you said, 30% of this is commercial, heavier vehicles, right?
Yeah.
If you run a garbage truck down there, you're looking at about 75, 80,000 pounds versus a 5,000 pound car. You're starting to get into these bigger trucks, sitting on a bed of water, you're gonna break up asphalt. Asphalt is basically rocks with glue.
Mm.
And that's what it comes down to. It just does not hold up once you get water underneath it. And that's a huge difference. Without getting this water underneath it, what on the picture on the left, how soon are we back to where we're at? If we, completely pulverize and everything else, how much reduction off the road life are you looking at without getting that water out of there?
Oh, yeah, if we made no drainage.
No drainage, oh,
improvements.
yeah, it would be less than 5 years.
Right. So the amount of money going into it is just throwing it out the window. But that, without getting that water out from underneath it, you're right back there in 5 years.
Right.
Good point. Commissioner McCollum?
So is that why you have, when you widen it, you have to take some trees
Well,
so that you could, oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
You have to take some trees so that you have the space leveling for getting the water to drain? Is that, I could be wrong, I don't know.
Yep.
No, and that's exactly right. As we would perform the work on, I'll call it the northern portion of the road. So that northern portion, north of the city water treatment plant, that pulverization and overlay, we would include 4-foot shoulders on either side. So 2-foot paved, 2-foot gravel on either side. But then there also has to be a provision for drainage there. And Commissioner Smers, I appreciate you pointing out that picture on the left, there is no drainage. That basically when it rains or when the snow melts, you've got standing water along the outsides of the road. The material underneath that surface is saturated. It's prone to failure. It's going to fail. And so the way that you control drainage is either you use an open ditch section, so we dig a ditch beyond the shoulder, or you put a curb and gutter in. And again, as we've reviewed the scope of this work, what we've looked at is, again, to the north, the pulverized and resurfaced portion of the road, using some curb and using some open ditch to provide drainage, but also to be cognizant of the impact on the adjacent property. We're certainly not going to place curb all the way from the city water plant all the way up to M52. It just wouldn't serve a purpose to do that. But we can use the curb in certain areas to help us limit the impact on the adjacent properties, and still effectively provide drainage for the road. We don't have all of those details yet. Brent mentioned it, Matt mentioned it, that our design consultant is still working on those details. But we want to have those available when we engage the public so we can have a thoughtful conversation about what the work is going to entail and what the possible impact on the property is going to be. But I'll say the northern portion of the road, there where we're going to do the pulverization and resurfacing, there are going to be some trees that have to be removed. We simply can't make the improvement without removing some of the trees. But again, I think as we've reviewed that scope, we've been very thoughtful. We've reviewed it twice just recently. We had the opportunity, myself and Matt and our project manager, Felix Weber, we had an opportunity to meet with the Sylvan Township Supervisor, Amanda Nimke, and we reviewed the road with Supervisor Nimke and talked about the scope of work. And then just a week ago, we were back out on site with the design consultant, again, reviewing that scope, reviewing the adjacent frontages, looking at those properties, and then looking at that mix of fixes, if you will, talking about things like, okay, here, let's look at a curb and gutter section. That may provide us with a means of limiting the impact on the adjacent frontage. And then here, no, this area needs to be an open ditch. We need to construct an open ditch here to take care of the drainage.
And then I would just say conversely, when you're doing a mill and fill to the south, you really don't have any significant impacts at all. Because you're widening for a 2-foot gravel shoulder, you're trying to widen for a white line, and you're going to get that in the next slides.
Yep.
You'll see that through that. So a lot of the concern that we're hearing from residents are trees on that southern section that we will not be impacting. There may be 1 or 2 that are in the actual existing shoulder right now that we'll have to remove just to get the 2-foot gravel. But the big oak trees that I think we've been contacted on a number of occasions and widely publicized that we were removing all these trees, that is not true. Ultimately, we hadn't made that decision yet. And as you can hear from this very thoughtful presentation of how we're processing the design, we've been modifying it to make sure it's a good fix for the road. And I think that's the important story to tell here.
Commissioner Smers, Commissioner Yamas, are you finishing?
I
Go ahead.
have something to add. So just anyone that hears curb, keep in mind, if you end up doing curb on situations like the picture on the left, and these guys know this, it's just me thinking about it from a different angle. If the water can still get underneath the curb from the outside. The drainage from on top of the road is what the curb is going to affect. You could still end up with a hydraulic effect with the water under the curb and then under the road. So curb's not a fix-all. It does fix a lot of situations, but it's not a fix-all when you have water coming from the outside getting under the road. So I just want to put that out there before somebody's watching this and they're like, well, why don't they curb the whole thing? It's not a fix-all.
Right. And I mentioned it really depends on the topography of the road. So in where the ground is higher than the road, curb makes sense. When the ground is lower than the road, curb doesn't do you any good.
Commissioner Yamas?
That
Excuse me.
partially answers my question. So I'm confused. I know you've been talking about the northern side and the southern side and the width. So the 2 feet paved and the 2 feet gravel is not going to happen on both sides of the road, only on the
Southern.
southern.
We're talking, when we say the shoulders, it's going to be applied to both sides of the road, the east and west.
Okay.
But then we're breaking the road into 2 sections. And let's get to the presentation
Sure.
and then
Okay.
it will answer a lot of questions. I think.
Okay, great.
Totally blown your PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I would say,
I think we've
reviewed that.
Great job of trying to anticipate and
Yeah.
make this work sequentially.
Maybe we should have started with this.
Okay.
So again, we have hired a design consultant. We apply roadway design standards. And just to touch on that, we oftentimes will use as references the AASHTO design guidelines. Engineers refer to that as the Green Book. So you use the Green Book as a design basis.
And AASHTO stands for?
The
American
Oh, come on, Aaron, this is just.
American Association of,
State Highway Transportation Officials.
there you
Good
go.
job, Brent.
Green Book.
Yeah.
So, so
Sounds
you use the
good.
Green Book because
National recognized basis for road
Yes.
design. It is the basis for all road design for the entire United States.
And then we also consider MDOT design guidelines. So again, that's going from a national level to a state level. So if this was, and Matt brought it up, if this was a project that involved federal aid, it does not, but if it did, and we were performing this level of work, this essentially a reconstruct where you're pulverizing the existing pavement and you're resurfacing it, MDOT, their design guidelines would dictate to us that we were going to put a 6-foot shoulder on either side of this road. Now, thankfully and wisely, we are not using federal aid for this road, so it provides some flexibility to us, but that's kind of a starting point for us. And we say, okay, if we're going to improve the road and we were going to put a 6-foot shoulder along each side and we were going to dig an open ditch, what's the impact of that? Okay, that impacts all the way out here. Well, That might not be a good idea. So then we start to look at other options. Again, it's an iterative process. And the design engineering consultant has been great in working with us on that. But again, we do have a starting point for a road. And then we tend to look at if that can be modified, if it needs to be modified. It's mentioned here, context-sensitive design. And I brought that up earlier, that when we first started to do some of the early scoping on this road, one of the reasons we deferred this work from 25 to 2026 was because we were trying to be context sensitive. We knew that there would be concerns about the impacts on the adjacent properties. And so we, again, wisely said, no, we need to engage a design consultant. We need to look at performing this work in 2026. And we've talked quite a bit about drainage already and how important that is for a roadway. So the proposed plan, again, the picture here on the right is looking from the city water plant to the south towards Sibley Road. So we'll refer to this as section 1 from Sibley Road to 1,200 feet north. This would be a mill and resurface. That's based on the condition of the existing pavement. We've confirmed that there's 5 inches of asphalt out here. Essentially, we went out and we pulled pavement cores. If you're going to do a mill and resurface, you have to have sufficient pavement to be able to do that. You don't want to do a 2-inch mill and resurface on a road that only has 3 inches of asphalt, because you're going to essentially remove almost the entirety of the existing asphalt, be down to the underlying base. So again, we have a good thickness of pavement here. We would slightly widen the asphalt from 22 feet to 24 feet. Now, we would still maintain the existing 11-foot wide lanes, but having that additional width allows us to get that white edge line on the pavement, because there are various spots on this south end from Sibley to 1,200 feet north where there is no edge line. And again, pavement markings are very important for motorist safety. They provide that guide. It can become quite difficult on a rainy and dark night driving down a county road with very little lighting. If you don't have that white edge line, that provides a great deal of guidance, of reassurance to the driver that they know where the roadway is. We won't make any drainage improvements through here. Commissioner Smers had pointed out that you can even see in this picture that there is some provision here for roadside drainage, that the lay of the land is such that the water tends to drain off of the road to the adjacent areas. Some of those areas are like farm fields. We do have some ditch lines down through here. So there actually is some provision through this section for roadside drainage. Again, by not performing the shoulder widening and by not needing to provide for drainage, that greatly limits the tree removals. And there are probably 1 or 2 trees down through here that we would need to remove because they're essentially in the shoulder. They're right up against the edge of the existing pavement. And so we really can't work around those trees.
And I will say also, going back to the conversation on the pavement markings, very important feature, not only for those dark and rainy nights in a rural area, those pavement markings are essential. Also, a lot of the technology in cars, as we're moving to safer automobiles, they have sensors that pick up. You probably all have heard about or driven in cars where you have lane assist. That lane assist doesn't happen without the paint. So it's very important for our road network to have good paint lines. And not only for the safety features for that nighttime driving, but also for those more newer vehicles with those safety features with the lane assist. That is critical.
And as you'll see, the current edge line along Workner Road is only 4 inches. Our standard now is to do a 6-inch edge line. So that would be 6 inches on each side. And that's for what Matt described for that lane assist for vehicles.
Yeah, we've moved to a 6-inch line countywide, as I understand it.
Yes.
And ultimately
And center line.
our lane width isn't changing. Our lane width, our county standard is 11 foot, which is 1 foot less than MDOT's. Typically, the Green Book, the AASHTO National Recognition, typically starts with a 12-foot lane. We in Washtenaw County has historically done 11-foot lanes. So we are 1 foot less than typical national standard. So FYI. And also that's another reason why having a little bit of a paved shoulder is of benefit for those larger commercial widths. So having, if you have an 11-foot lane and a 6-inch line adjacent to it, you need a little more than what's out there. That's why we're going from 22 to 24 to get that asphalt pavement, to get the 6 inches on both sides.
Commissioner McCollum?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the yellow, like on the
Center line?
center line. There's a solid one, and then the next one, there's, you know,
Dash.
dashed, and then another one where it's double line. That depends on traffic or,
So that's based on sight distance along the roadway to have the passing zones, is what you're referring to? I'm assuming?
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we would look at the passing zone along, and that would be the vertical curves along Werkner Road, and determine where there's appropriate space for passing. We base that based on the speed limit of the road, and actually we use 55 miles an hour countywide, regardless of the speed, for establishing those zones.
Thank you.
And again, this is a 55-mile-an-hour road that is not changing. It's prima facie and it's unposted. So you won't see a sign that says 55.
Right.
When there's no sign, the law of the land is it's prima facie, and then it's safe and reasonable up to 55 miles an hour.
Good.
Are we still going south to north?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So this is what I refer to as the northern section. So section 2, this would be from the city water plant. So 1,200 feet north of Sibley to the roundabout at M52. So this would be the portion where, due to the deterioration of this pavement, it is a candidate for pulverization, shaping of that material, compacting of that modified base material, and then applying a new asphalt surface to that, a 3 or 4 inch asphalt surface. Here we would maintain the 11-foot traveled lane width. So we would apply a new 6-inch white edge line to maintain that 11-foot lane width. And then we would also have a 2-foot paved and 2-foot gravel shoulder. Again, we're working with the design consultant to include some provision for curb. Essentially, that curb would replace the 2-foot gravel shoulder. So in the areas where curb would be used, you would have an 11-foot traveled lane, you would have a 2-foot asphalt paved shoulder, and then you would have a 2-foot wide concrete curb and gutter. And so again, that curb and gutter in certain sections would replace the gravel shoulder width. There will be some tree removals that'll be needed up through here. And again, we do not know the impacts. I can't stand here today and say, if we had a picture, yeah, that tree's coming out, this one's going to stay. We don't know that yet because the design consultant is still developing the plans to provide us for a basis to have a good conversation with the public. And under the current road commission tree policy, before we would go out and remove any of these trees, we would inform the adjacent owner. We essentially have a tree removal notice that informs the owner that the tree is identified for removal, and it asks them if they'd like to have the wood or have us dispose of it. So this is nothing, I'll say, like, we're not going to come in the darkness of the night and start cutting trees down. We're going to make sure that that adjacent property owner is informed if we have need to cut a tree down.
And we'll have these impacts identified by the time we get to the public.
That is correct, yes.
And just to correct some misinformation, there is information out there that we take this wood and sell it. We don't do that. We offer it to the property owner, like Aaron had suggested. And if they don't want the wood, then the contractor is then responsible for removing those trees.
And oftentimes the contractor will essentially dispose it as they see fit. That means they may sell it. That means they may offer it to other property owners that are interested. Oftentimes we get calls from residents in Washtenaw County and say, I see you're removing these trees or tree work's going on. Can I have the wood? And we say, you need to contact the contractor or the property owner, because the property owner has first right of refusal. They can either take it or say, nope, please dispose of it. So that's generally how that works.
There's also been the question raised about tree replacement. And I think it's important to note that we cannot use our road improvement funds for tree replacement. Even if we wanted to, we can't do that. So if there's a philanthropist out there that wants to start a tree replacement program, please go for it. But we cannot use our dollars to do that.
Right. And we have very limited room in the right of way
Yeah,
to do any of that. So
Right.
very limited opportunities for that.
So do you want to jump into Google?
I
Street
don't know,
View?
that's, I don't know.
Yeah, I think what we were planning to do is drive the road using Google Street View. And of course, we're starting on the south end and working our way north.
That's the only way I can
Works.
understand what direction it
North.
is. So,
There you go.
thank
So
you.
we can highlight some of the trees of concern that we've heard about that we don't anticipate any impacts given the new scope of work, southern section. So here we are.
Just for the
Starting
southern
at Civ,
section.
exactly. And for the northern section, we will have those impacts identified for the public meeting in February.
But we don't have that yet.
Do
It's
not.
not fine.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're starting here. This is at the intersection at Sibley Road. So there's Sibley Road at the south end. Again, you can see one of the factories there in the industrial park there in the city of Chelsea. As we mentioned before, so this is facing east. The east side of Workner Road from Sibley to Ivy, all those properties are in the city of Chelsea. The road is under our jurisdiction. We take care of the road. It's certified to the Washtenaw County Road Commission, but all the properties on the east side that abut the road are city properties.
So that storm sewer is the city of Chelsea's.
Yeah, they're sanitary sewer.
Oh,
So
that's
there's-
sanitary?
Yeah, there's a sanitary
That you just
sewer.
showed us. Okay.
Yeah, that runs down through here. I'd say, yeah, actually there's
Yep,
right there. So that green mark,
Right.
green is sanitary.
the drain.
Yeah,
comes out.
so that would be
Catch
city of
basins are-
Chelsea.
Oh.
Catch
oh,
basins are ours.
nice.
Yeah,
Because it's our road. So anything road and drainage related is our responsibility.
Okay,
But then we permit other utilities to be there, whether it be sanitary or water
Okay.
main for the
Mhm.
city.
Mhm.
It gets complicated.
yep. So again, we'll move to the north here. So again, these are some of the properties where there's been concerns expressed because of the maturity of these trees that are along the roadside. You can see some of them there. Again, through this section, as I reviewed previously, this 1,200-foot section is going to be a mill and resurface, a 2-inch mill and resurface. There's going to be a slight widening to make sure that we can get that 6-inch edge line. You can see the remnants of where the white line is there. The white line is going to go back in the same spot. It's going to be 2 inches wider. We'll go from a 4-inch edge line to a 6-inch edge line. And we need to make sure that we've got sufficient room along that outside edge to be able to apply that edge line and to try to provide some structure to the outside edge of the road. As we go further north here,
And Aaron, where we
Yes.
can, adjacent to the new paved surface, we're gonna try and get a 2-foot gravel, if we can get it.
yep. In some of these areas, it gets quite narrow with the adjacent.
Yep.
As we continue north, here you can see actually along these properties, there's a ditch there. So we do have some provision for roadside drainage. You can see there's a fire hydrant there. So again, there is a city of Chelsea water main that runs down through here from the water plant going into town. So they have some hydrants along the county road here, along the west side of the road, the township side of the road.
And Aaron, just to highlight,
Yes.
one of the reasons we think this segment of road is in better shape than the north is when that water plant was likely constructed and water main and whatnot were put in, likely that pavement that's the reason why, because it was at some point improved, and it has a different story than the northern section.
You can see that, again, we're getting into the segment here where you've got some significant trees here along the outside, the township side, the west side of the road. And again, with the scope of work only including a 2-inch mill and resurface, we would not have to remove these trees. We're not adding a 4-foot shoulder. We're not adding provision for drainage. So these trees would remain. We do need to look more closely at and have a discussion about the landscaping along the edge of the road, because you can see it's very near the edge of the road. Even with a slight widening there, it might be difficult because of, in particular, the rocks that are so close to the edge of the road. So that would be a discussion we certainly would have with that property owner about that landscaping that's been performed. You can see there is some deterioration in the road surface, so there's some cracking there along the center line. But again, it's quite different than the section we'll come into as we continue north here. So we'll go up near the city water plant.
Question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
sorry.
No, I was wondering about the mailboxes too. Will they be affected, impacted?
With the mill and resurface, they shun it. They
Okay.
should be able to basically stay where they're at.
Okay.
There wouldn't be need to get into relocating mailboxes for that. The other thing that I should mention is with a mill and resurface, we typically will maintain traffic by basically flagging. We would mill one side, you'd have, traffic in the adjacent lane, and then you would switch. With a pulverization, because of the scope of the work that's going on there, we would close the road. So again, I need to talk to the design consultant. Felix and I need to discuss it and look at what the best application of traffic control would be here. At a minimum, we will make sure that there's access to the properties, that there's access to the city water plant. But again, we would need to look at, since we're using a mix of fixes here, the best way to address traffic during construction. Again, you can see here, here's some marks. So you got a sanitary manhole there. You've got the city water plant is back in there. And then really this is where the story of the pavement changes significantly. You can see right there, again, looking to the north, this is where we transition from a 2-inch mill and resurface into a pulverization and resurfacing that needs to be performed here. You still, in this pulverization area, you do have some areas where thankfully there's some adjacent lower lying areas where water can be spilled off into these areas on both sides. This is just kind of a low point in the road as you progress from south to north. So really the lay of the land is what dictates where those drainage points are, where that runoff is going to be able to be directed to. As we continue up the hill here, we come into an area where, again, this is a potential area where curb and gutter could be effectively used. Because if you think about it, as we focus in on, again, this is the east side of the road. If you think about, that's only an 11-foot lane. If we put a 4-foot shoulder on there, 2-foot paved, 2-foot gravel, and then we try to dig an open ditch section there with a 1-on-3 front slope and a 1-on-3 back slope, you're going to get into some of these trees. Like it's just the width dictates that you're going to widen your work where you're going to get into some trees. So we did discuss with the design consultant just last week, providing for a curb and gutter section. So again, you'd have an 11-foot traveled lane, you'd have a 2-foot paved shoulder, and then you'd have a 2-foot concrete curb and gutter. And then you would essentially, from the back side of that curb and gutter, you would tie it into the existing property. It may still be working very near the base of that tree. And that's one thing we always keep in mind is when we're performing work very near the base of a tree or inside the drip line of the tree, you're disturbing the root system of that tree. That's just the nature of it. So it's not something that we take lightly, but we feel that we could effectively use some curb and gutter up through this section as well as some additional sections as we continue north where we can apply the curb and gutter. Matt mentioned that really where the curb and gutter helps us is when that adjacent property goes up from the road. If the property falls away from the road, if you picture a typical curb and gutter, the curb section is higher than the road. You're actually adding height and then trying to tie it into the adjacent property. Be easier if I could just draw it. But it essentially, you actually can have a greater impact if the adjacent property falls away from the road.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So this property we're looking at right now.
Yes.
So,
Remember, the design is not finalized.
right. So there's their property and then there's the right of way here. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the right of way would be 33 feet from the center line of the road. So I don't know exactly in that picture where that 33 feet is. I don't know, looking at these trees, where those trees fall with respect to the right of way.
Keep in mind, the right of way, you can always think about it, it's an easement. Their property line might go to the center of the road. Property lines are described a variety of ways, but property owners can say, well, I own to the center of the road. That is potentially very correct. But the reality is we have 33 feet of easement that we often refer to as right of way to do road and drainage purposes, and also to permit things like utilities within that right of way. So when we talk property lines, I just want to be awareness, because they're very broad terms that mean different things depending on your perspective.
And I will note that that's one area that, as we looked at through this design, we're looking at those impacts to the right of way. So if we were to look at putting a typical ditch in here, then we would have to be acquiring
We'd be
additional
beyond the
right of
right
way.
of way.
We'd be beyond that.
Yeah.
And so that's another area that we look at when we're looking at our preliminary.
Thank you.
So again, as we continue to the north here, you'll see there's some adjacent trees. Again, I'll say, again, the design is not done. That tree's quite far back from the edge of the road, and so I'm fairly confident in saying, even if we had an open ditch section there, it's far enough away from the edge of the road that we'd be able to get the ditch in without having to take the tree out. As we continue to the north here, again, the road condition remains the same. The road is in an advanced state of deterioration. Again, this would all be subject to pulverization with an asphalt resurfacing. You can see on this side of the road, there's no provision for drainage. Essentially, the water just runs to the outside of the road, and then it runs either to the north or to the south, or it just sits there. It depends on, is there grade in the road? Is there longitudinal grade in the road that would carry that water to the north or the south? Because there's certainly no ditch there. Again, we reviewed this. We drove the project a couple of times with the design consultant to talk about different ideas, different applications of open ditch and of curb and gutter to provide that drainage that's so desperately needed through here. So again, I'll turn around at Ivy Road. So you can see there's looking to the south from Ivy Road. And there is the sign there that says, "Welcome to the City of Chelsea." Because those properties in this picture would be on the left-hand side of the picture, the east side is City of Chelsea, south of Ivy Road. So they've got their city limit sign right there. And as we turn around and look at Ivy Road, we'll continue the pulverization and overlay through this intersection.
Sure. Aaron, if you
Yeah.
wouldn't mind pausing.
Yeah.
Take a look. There are not a lot of trees within 10 feet of that white line. So that's good news, because there'll be very minimal impact. So this kind of open ditch area, you can see cattails, so there's definitely low-lying areas. And then aren't we replacing a culvert?
We are, in fact. Yeah, and the culvert is, let me find it.
Yeah.
Where is it? It's right
Under the
here.
road right about
It's
there.
under the road right about here. And there is a weight restriction. In fact, I think it's right there maybe. Yeah,
There you are.
there
There's
you
the
are.
waterfall. Yeah.
So This picture doesn't have the weight restriction because this is June 24. But there is a 3-unit weight restriction on this culvert now. The culvert that passes under the road here actually carries the Mill Pond drain. So that falls under the jurisdiction of the Water Resources Commission. We'll need to obtain permits from Water Resources and from Environment, Great Lakes and Energy to be able to replace the existing deteriorated culvert. The existing culvert's actually quite large. I think it's about 84 inches in diameter, and it's a corrugated metal pipe
Felix
culvert.
agrees.
So, thank you, Felix. My memory isn't failing me today. So again, that'd be a component of this work. If you're going to go to the expense of pulverizing and resurfacing a road at, I'll say for planning purposes, you're looking at somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 per mile for a 2-lane county road to pulverize and resurface. If you're going to spend that kind of money, you want to address crossroad culverts that are failing. You don't want to have to go back and cut the road open. Again, we'll continue north of the culvert here.
We're working through the permitting required for that culvert.
Correct.
Yeah, so
That's
and
right.
It does, again, it's an environmental impact. You're working with a water course and get permitting done. So that's one of the tasks of the design team to perform.
And then we'll continue north kind of out of that's an old picture. This one's pretty old too. June 2009, my goodness.
That's a nice chip seal we've got.
Yeah, there you go.
Covering up the sins of the road.
That, I would say,
A lot different.
that's recession era type budgetary constraints. Yes. So now we're back in modern times. There we go.
There we go. That was a brief window of historic pictures.
So that's looking back to the south at Ivy Road, that kind of, I'll say, swampy area on either side. And then that's where that culvert crossing is that carries the Mill Pond drain.
And stay there, Aaron. You
Yeah.
can see the edge of that road where it's just
Yeah.
failing.
It looks like an alligator's back. We call that alligator cracking. Go figure, right? That's really a distress that tells you the road has failed. There's no rehabbing it. It needs to be reconstructed. You can cover it up with seal coat and wedging, but that's going to go right back to that state within a matter of a year or two, depending on how harsh the winter or spring is.
Yep. So we'll turn back to the north. Again, you can see this property frontage has got a fair number of trees along it. And again, I can't stand here and say which trees would need to be removed, if any trees need to be removed. This is one area where we discussed with the design consultant, again, maybe a provision for using a curb and gutter section here, because you do have good fall from the north coming south. Again, the water on this portion of the road is all coming towards us. It wants to get down to that low-lying area that's behind us. So
it's funny, when we were out on site, and I have actually been contacted by property owners, there are those, you won't hear from them, but we have, that are very supportive of the project, also supportive of addressing the drainage issues and recognizing that that may involve some tree removal. So again, you hear both sides.
Yes.
Once you get through the public participation, and we're working through that process, obviously.
So again, continuing to the north, there's some more of that alligator cracking. This picture's from April of 2023. So you can see continued failure, really no provision here. That it appears maybe there's a slight ditch over on the left-hand side, on the west side. Maybe there was some provision for a ditch there in years prior. You've got a pretty steep hill that's departing from the road. So again, this was an area where the design consultant and the road commission discussed providing curb and gutter through here, because you can imagine that if you put a 2-foot paved, 2-foot gravel shoulder and then try to dig an open ditch, 1 on 3 front slope, 1 on 3 back slope, against a hillside like that, that's going to essentially, it would remove all of those trees, and actually we would have to get some easement on the adjacent property because the house sits up on a hill. So again, in these sections, you can effectively use curb and gutter to try to limit the impact on the adjacent frontage.
And again, these are the details of why we decided this makes good sense to bring a design team on board to help us through these challenges.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes, Madam Chair. So I see the meeting is coming up soon for the public. When will the public, the ones that are concerned about their trees, when will they know when the consultants have designed and know which trees will stay and which trees won't?
Sure. We would expect that the design consultant will be able to provide, I'll say a substantially complete design plan later this month, by the end of January, 1st of February. And then that would provide enough information for us to go out and intelligently discuss with the property
Okay.
owner. This is what the plan shows. These are the trees that are identified for removal, and have that notification of what our intentions would be. And then we would have the public meeting. Again, we've got the virtual public meeting on the 9th of February.
Yeah.
And we've got the in-person public meeting in Chelsea on the 12th.
Yeah, given the time
So,
frame,
yeah.
we likely will not get to everyone before the public meeting, which is fine. We will follow up with all those with impacts prior to any removals happening. Ultimately, we'll be ready enough to say, here are the impacts for our second week in February when the meeting takes place. And then we would follow up with anyone that we needed to after that.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
depending on what we hear at the public meeting, we then would potentially have options to go back to the consultant and make some minor modifications.
And we're just about to the roundabout in M52 here. Again,
That's because we're out of time.
yes. And again, as you look up through here, the advantage here is there are trees, but they're quite a distance back from the road. So that provides us with some opportunity to improve not just the road, but the shoulder area and the roadside drainage. And then there's the MDOT roundabout at Workner 52. So that's the end of our project. That'd be the point of ending. If you ever see a set of design plans, you'll see it says POB, that's point of beginning, and POE is point of ending. And this would be the POE for the project.
If I may, Felix, anything you wish to add? Come up and identify yourself so the rest of the world knows you.
Felix Weber, I'm a project manager here at the Road Commission, working on this project along with Berkholz. And I don't have much to add. I think they did a good job covering it, but
Thanks, Felix.
it's been a I think it'll be a very rewarding project at the end of the day. There's been ups and downs trying to work through this design, and but no, it'll be a good project when we're all done. So it'll suit the residents of Sylvan Township well. So
Great.
in the city of Chelsea.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You now got an attaboy from Felix, so.
I appreciate
Well done.
that. I'll take them anywhere I can get a compliment. That's much appreciated.
And then if you go back into the presentation, we do have a slide on the
Yep.
public meetings.
Yeah.
I think we've covered questions.
Mhm.
We'd be happy to answer anything. Any
Yep.
other closing thoughts people had on the subject before we move
Take a
on to the
break.
agenda? Yep.
Anything further, commissioners?
I just,
Up, Commissioner Yamas.
I think the only thing that I think we've learned kind of from this experience up until now is the public wants to know before stakes show up that this is happening.
Sure. No,
Yes,
and
agreed.
I don't-
Avoid a lot
I
of
think that's a
conflict.
absolutely valid point. We can get information to the public. That's not gonna solve their concerns over
Right.
trees.
Right.
That will, I mean, we're just not there yet.
Right.
And that's why we schedule the meetings to get input once we know what the impacts are. It was always premature, but I think knowing we've got a project out there, knowing we're gonna have surveyors out there, that's an absolute lesson learned where we can, and we've talked with Brent and the team and also Tiffany Oliphant, our communication manager, about sending notice out sooner.
Yep.
That's a fair.
Yeah, we
criticism.
did hear that comment loud and clear, and we did make adjustments. So moving forward, we have projects that are upcoming, and we did reach out and say, hey, you may see survey stakes in your front yard.
And that's the reason here's our project page. It's, you know, it's gonna be a significant project in this year. Whether it be 25 or 26 or 27, I guess not 25 anymore. So,
Yeah.
Commissioner McCollum.
I just want to say thank you for the presentation. I had lots of questions, but I just listened and you guys answered them. So thank you.
Great.
Of course.
Great presentation.
Tiffany has on the screen right now, we did send out a project update last Friday, which describes what we went over this morning, which was the 2 scopes of work. And that really kind of lets the folks know that signed up for the project pages and the public know, puts them on notice, hey, we are making changes to the plan to polarize and resurface. We're breaking into 2 sections. So that information is getting out there. And hopefully that will be well received.
And we would encourage those that are curious about this project or any of our projects to visit our website, sign up and subscribe for updates. And then you'll routinely see when we do provide an update and get that notification.
I suspect at this afternoon's board meeting, we'll have more folks coming to talk about Workner Road. We can certainly provide a project update. Even this recording of the working session, we put a link on the project page as well, so they could view this. And it's a precursor to our public information meeting in February.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
three of you. Thank you. All right, it's 10:26. We're scheduled for a break. Sorry to the 3 of you back there who, well, and Adam. Let's take a break and come back by 10:35, right? So we'll take a 10-minute break. Shift gears here a little bit. Good to go, Tiffany? Okay. Welcome back. We will continue with our working session agenda with the winter maintenance update. Mr. McDonnell.
Thank you, Chair Fuller. I am going to invite our operations staff up. And they're going to walk us through a winter maintenance update for this year.
Great. Make sure we meet everybody, Adam.
Oh, we will.
All right.
All right, good morning. Adam Leap, Director of Operations. I'll have my team with me here, and as I introduce them, they'll come up because they're going to present with us this year as well for the winter update. So, operations admin team, we have myself there on the left, Ken Harris, our superintendent of maintenance.
You're hard to identify, Ken. So.
Yeah, yeah. Could match the picture. Jared Powers, our assistant superintendent of maintenance, and then Tiffany Lobostal is our operations associate. So they'll help us through the presentation today. We all kind of have our own little parts in the action here for winter maintenance, and each one of the 4 of us keep it going. But then we have 8 foremen and a couple auxiliary crews and about 100 people trying to do it for us for the rest of the agency. So there's quite a few of us, but 100 people can't talk at once. So we'll try to cover all the topics we can touch. I will start with just a quick refresher to kind of set the tone, and then we'll kind of carry on throughout the presentation, and I'll set up kind of each slide, and then the team will carry us through. So for us, we have a priority system here at the Road Commission. Really, that's just designed to implement winter maintenance activities just in an efficient manner, and also with some logic behind that. The main logic is if someone were to leave their house and get to a main road, we need them to be able to traverse the county through the main road system. So that's where our paved primary roads come into play as our first priority. We also pair that obviously with the MDOT freeway system because we are contract as a maintenance provider for the MDOT team.
Give me 2 examples of an M road.
So an M road specific would be M52. So it goes north and south on the west side of the county, or M153 on the east side of the county. And that kind of goes on a northeasterly pattern, northeast, southeast kind of angle across the northeast portion of the county.
And then M17.
Yeah, and then M17, which a lot of us refer to as Washtenaw Avenue, that runs east-west. That'll basically take you from Ypsilanti back into Ann Arbor, just almost through the middle of the county, but just a little on the northern side of the county there. And then obviously our our interstates, we have I-94, US 23, M14 actually is an M route as well, but it's a divided portion of the highway, 2 lane on each side that we maintain. So keeps us pretty busy. Then our second system, it would be the M routes, which second priority system, but that really partners up with the first priority. We do those simultaneously. And then for us, the superintendents try to get the crews into subdivisions, and then unpaved roads. So given our dynamic, stature kind of throughout the county, the west side of the county that has less subdivisions, inherently they can go into their unpaved road system much sooner than the groups on the east side of the county. So sometimes it may look like we are doing subdivision and unpaved roads at the same time. That's because they can do that with only having a handful of miles, each crew has.
That includes M12, right?
US 12, yes.
US
US
12
12 is, yeah, one of the MDOT routes. Sorry, I left that one off.
Commissioner McCollum.
Just a short question. So if someone has a concern about an MDOT road, they still contact the road commission, correct?
Most likely. It's simplest for us at that because usually it's a maintenance question or a need or something they see. So most times it'll get routed through us. Anything beyond that, if it's a permit, type project that we dealt with in the past few weeks with some of the construction on US 12, then we, from the road commission, try to get that to the state or tie them up with MDOT personnel.
So WCRC Fix-It is the best way to get those concerns.
Yeah, still the same avenue we use. Yep, and still same process we use.
Thank you.
Open and close those. Yep.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Commissioner Green.
So we're responsible for the freeway system,
Mhm.
regardless of whether it's running through the city or township, correct?
Correct. The freeways, yes. Theoretically, our freeways kind of loop around Ann Arbor, so
It's run through Ann Arbor, that's still our responsibility.
yeah, well, technically it goes around Ann Arbor, so we still maintain it. The I-94 business route, that'll be taken care of by the city. That's a
Gotcha.
short section through the middle of the city. So the city will do that inside their jurisdiction.
Same for Washtenaw.
Yeah, same for Washtenaw, Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor take care of those segments, but they're relatively short segments that,
But I-94 is ours.
yep.
Cut
Correct.
through by Briarwood
Yeah.
and US 23.
Yeah, and then
goes
US 23 kind of goes up and around the
spaghetti,
city.
yeah.
It
Right.
connects to M14 there for a portion. So that's all us because it is technically out of the city.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. All right. So Ken and Jared will talk a little bit about our fleet here. Really, if you guys just want to touch on some of that, Ken or Jared, whichever one of you can touch on that. Ken, why don't you touch on the trucks a little bit, kind of what we.
Yeah, so is-
Who are
Adam-
you? Who are you?
Oh, Ken Harris, Superintendent, Washington County Road Commission. As mentioned, we got about 45, 55 heavy trucks. We'll touch base later on in the presentation about wing plows, but I think we were right around that 75 wings. Some trucks have two, some trucks have individuals, but we've got 11 motor graders and we've got about 24 to 30 fleet with front plows. A lot of those are 1 tons or pickups. A lot of foreman pickups and group leader pickups all have front plows on them. So Jared, you want to touch base anything on?
Powers,
Hi, Jared.
Mr. Powers gets to operate.
I'm Jared Powers, Assistant Superintendent of Maintenance. They said it all, I guess they kind of said it all. We have both the trucks and the graders going, usually on all winter maintenance calls. If we got light snow, we won't take the graders out, but most of the time the graders are going out and pairing up with the trucks. So they're on the gravels as we're doing some of the other roads as well. As long as we have enough personnel to operate everything, we'll try to get them out as quick as possible to start going over some of that stuff.
Jared, how many snow routes do we have?
We're around that 46 or so.
Oh, yeah, well, we want to add another one to make it 47 because we want to split another one. But we haven't got as many operators and trucks as we need yet, so.
Tiffany, anything you want to add?
Not yet.
Okay.
We'll go a little bit about some of the mileage. We're right around that 4,000 miles. I'll let Adam talk a little bit about kind of the breakout for our mileage.
Yeah, so as you can see, we have our typical lane mile breakout. So 598 lane miles of state trunk lines, the 1,600 lane miles of gravel roads, 720 lane miles of subdivision streets. So the 4,000 at the top of the screen, that's an approximate task. What I'm trying to set up here is we're going to talk a little bit of kind of like how our tasks are throughout an event. Usually on average, we're going to need 4,000 lane miles worth of work to be done. Last week would be a good example. Even yesterday, good example where wind was blowing so much, we had to check every road essentially. Thankfully, didn't have to go into a lot of subdivisions, so that cut back a little bit of time. But then we spent more time because we had to make 2 or 3 loops through every route. So that's why I kind of set this slide up to really just base off of that, kind of our task during an event. And then now into the crews, Jared can explain that, kind of our scheduling and our processes that we use to keep ourselves going and consistent through an event. So I don't know, Ken, why don't you touch on it?
I have a question. So 4,000 total lane miles, is that counting both directions?
Yes, so that's
Okay.
where, that's at approximate of, we'd have to go down and back and maybe
Yep,
like a turn
yep.
lane. So it is an approximate estimate, but it's pretty close comparative to what we've been looking at with some of the data.
Okay,
So just for an example, a mile of the Jackson Road Boulevard would equate to 4 miles of lanes.
got it.
Because you've got 2 lanes in each direction.
Yeah.
So in the urban areas, we have quite a bit more
Correct.
lane miles, and that's an important attribute to consider when you're doing winter maintenance. In urban areas like Pittsfield Township, you have Carpenter Road, a 5-lane road, Ann Arbor Saline's a 5-lane road at sections. So all those are very much on the minds when you're looking at the task at hand. So it's a great way to break out. I know normally we talk center line miles.
Right.
Now, when we shift to a maintenance conversation, we want to talk lane miles.
Mhm. Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
So Ken will break out our crews here, how we have 8 crews and their schedule, and then Jared touched a little bit on our 5-person night patrol that we use for the state trunk lines.
Yeah, so our crews, we have several districts. We have 6 district crews, a heavy equipment crew, and a state trunk line crew. So those crews vary. Majority of crews are about five routes. So we end up asking the guys, if we get 5 or 5, if we have an extra driver for that crew, we'll try to push them onto another crew that's short. So we're able to share resources throughout the county. So heavy equipment has 11 routes. Our state trunk line has 5 routes. Our district 2, I think, are at 8 routes. So we're able to share resources to try to, if there's any shortfalls throughout the county, we're able to use those. We sometimes tapped into signals and signs too. We use those as resources as availabilities come available through the crews. So as we talked about, 4 a.m. to 8 p.m., that's a long shift for us. We do vary that. Jared and I kind of make those decisions. Sometimes on a Sunday, we're able to come in at 6, 7. On New Year's Day, we ended up having them start at 6, give them a little bit of time to sleep in after a long couple of days. And we realized we take into account for traffic volume. Sometimes on a Sunday, we're able to bring the crews in a little bit later because traffic volumes do help us out. In particular, when we're laying salt down on the road, we do need the traffic to help us out. So, for instance, this morning we started at 4. We had the state trunk lines were in a good spot, so we're able to move those resources to some of the soft surface roads. So today's response was a little bit quicker on some of the soft surface roads. If you're traveling soft surface on your way in, you may have saw them attended a little bit quicker than normal. That was because our state trunk line was at a good spot. So we're able to move those resources throughout the county on some of those. So I'll let Jared touch base a little bit on the night patrol as well.
So night patrol, we get off at 8 on day shift, usually unless it's ice. We'll bring in our 5-person night patrol at 8 p.m. and they'll stay all night, obviously monitoring all the state trunk line stuff. So for example, like last night, if 94 and 23 were in decent shape, most of that was pretty dry. It was letting it blow across. So a lot of times they're on 52 and US 12 on the drifting, and they're trying to keep pushing it back. They have different routes that they will cover. They try to keep, basically, if it's snowing hard and it's continue all night, their goal is to keep one lane open on all the expressways. So that's their main goal, is to try to keep one lane open for the most part for traveling public. And then we would come back in at 4 a.m., relieve them, and start opening it up to try to get pushed back all the way. So depending on when the storm decides to quit or not. So.
And just as a reminder, the night patrol is paid for by MDOT. So it's a condition of our state trunk line maintenance contract.
Yep.
I hope.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gloria, go ahead.
Sure. So night patrol, what are their hours?
They start at 8 p.m. and they'll go to 4:30.
Okay.
Normal.
Normals, yeah, unless we call them in early if we need extra help, or if sometimes they'll stay late, so they're overtime. We come in at 4, and if we're shorthanded, we might ask a couple of them to stay to help out to get in the truck. If we have an empty truck, they can stay to work some overtime if they want to.
Oh, okay. So the other question I have is, Ken, so 16-hour days for everybody, or do you have some people starting at 4 and some people starting, I don't know, at 10?
Well, yeah, no, it all depends on equipment availability and resources. So if we have the availability to bring them all in, we could work a 16-hour day with everyone. We do have crews that if we don't have trucks or seats for them, they'll come in a normal work day. So like today, we have a few guys that started at 7. So they, just because even tomorrow we're pre-scheduling for tonight, and we have a few staff that all the seats are full, so they'll just start their normal workday at 7 and they'll fill the seats. And if we do a workday extension, it all depends on availability of crews and resources that we have. So if we can bring everybody in and fill the seats, we will, but there is sometimes that some people will end up sitting home.
Well, given the storms that we've had, so I get that for the seats.
Mhm.
The 16, you have to cover that like 7 days?
It depends on what the storm is, what's going on out there, and also what's upcoming. We'll talk a little further, but a big job for Jared and I is to plan not only what's going on now, but what's upcoming. Like we have a snowstorm coming tomorrow, so our intention is to cover all of our back roads today, get everything pushed back. And we've reviewed our subs the last couple of days and decided we're gonna hold off on the subs at this moment. And then once Wednesday's storm event is done, we're looking ahead, seeing what's coming on the weekend and what we need to finish prior to that to make sure we're getting the road system to a good standard before the next event comes.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Manager,
Commissioner Collins.
I just had a question. There was that Grand Rapids incident, and I don't know, what was involved there. Was it driver error? Was it sudden storm, condition of roads, or whatever? What are some of the things that we do to prevent or try to prevent something like that?
That's pretty hard to prevent. A lot of that comes from the whiteout conditions when you have the wind like that. For our group, they really we continually plow, so that presence on the freeway to try to expose some pavement, even if it is dry black ice, because we would be treating, because you don't want to make it wet, which we'll kind of touch on here in a few slides. It is very hard to prevent that type of situation. When the wind whips like it was yesterday, it'll blind you. So it's unfortunate how that occurs. We do our best to try to keep a little pavement exposed. And then they were to the west of here. But when people high rate of speeds and relatively long straight segments is when you see a lot of that, just because people kind of get comfortable going 30 mile an hour, then 40 mile an hour, then 60 mile an hour, and they're back to 80 mile an hour on snow. And then you get the quick blinding whiteout, which could only be a few hundred feet of just a clearing where it passes through the trees. And it just takes one little mistake from one person, and then someone catches them, and then the next, and it literally is that accordion effect. So very challenging. Yeah, we have yet to develop that. If we do, we'll probably all be making pretty good money, because it's a scary situation that we have to kind of drive through and work in. We use our work lights, our strobe lights that we refer to them, and try to be as visible as possible. But even ourselves, it's hard to be seen with all the flashing lights we even have. So, bit of a dangerous situation at times.
And the wing clouds actually have blinkers on them too.
Yes, they do.
Which is
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, and our staff do communicate. Yesterday, we had a couple pretty mean squalls come through, particularly one went right down 94. And so our staff is to be able to communicate when it starts out to the west. Usually we're able to communicate and check where it's going. So the people that know it's coming, they can kind of get prepared for it. And sometimes it's a short one. They're hard to predict, but a lot of it is drivers got to be a little cautious of that.
If you can get speed reduced, you can control it a little bit better, but it's very hard to reduce speeds and control speeds when inevitably someone's going to pass us or go around. Slower is better.
Our guys will pull off the highway and get out of the way, let the snow squall stop, and then get back to the work if it's a dangerous situation for them.
I will say our area, we feel the traffic is closer together. There's a lot of traffic around here, more congestion, I guess you could say. A lot of these areas where that happens, if you start looking back on those, are especially on the west side of the state, I guess a more rural stretch of the highway where I think people get spaced out more on the highway. That's what causes the problem, because they don't see any brake lights or anything in front of them when that happens, right? So those people wreck, and then 30 seconds later, another person's coming. We're here, there's not very often there's 30 seconds between a car, right? They're all a lot closer together. So I feel like not that we've never had any accidents like that, but we've had, 10 or 20 cars maybe at a time at the most. But that's about it, because people can see what's going on, because I think everybody's more close together on our sections.
Thank you.
Commissioner Yamas?
So I'm not sure who's gonna answer this. So as I'm understanding the seat availability, we have 45 to 55 trucks.
Hmm.
That's 10 trucks. Does that mean 10 are down sometimes? And the 11 motor graders, is that in addition to the 45, 55? And the 24 light fleet, you said that includes like supervisors, trucks. But are some of them used for plowing like small areas?
Yes, so the ten heavy truck differences, yes, usually because we have fleet that's down or getting repaired, or this piece broke or that piece broke where it's just has to sit, so we can't physically fill those trucks. So then there are times when we'll put those leftover individuals, we'll take the light fleet trucks, so the small plow trucks. Or if we get to a point in the event where we're essentially cleaning things up, people may even park the dump trucks, the heavy trucks, and get in the smaller trucks to go in subdivisions or do the crossovers you see on the freeway or the crossovers on Jackson Boulevard out here. So it's that, those are tools that we kind of use throughout. We don't fill, we don't have that many people to fill all those trucks at once. But yeah, supervisor driven, sometimes leftover staff, or if we even had people where they're waiting on something to get serviced on their heavy truck, they'll take one of the light fleet trucks and at least move snow with that. The graders, we don't typically send out at night because most of the people that operate the graders have routes as well. So with an actual heavy truck. But an example would be yesterday, they'd bring people in to put them in the grader as well. And so maybe you either have a dump truck sitting or we call extra people in to try to fill everything we can. It really depends on what type of event we have. If it's just an inch or two of snow and we're essentially just salting, the graders really don't do anything for us. So we'll kind of leave those set. But they are a source for us, especially if we have a lot of breakdowns. We can use them if we have to plow the roads with them, but obviously they don't apply any salt, so they don't do much for us instead of working on the back roads.
Thank you. One other question. So the 10 truck difference, is that an average, or we have 10 trucks down at a time sometimes?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes even more. It can fluctuate. Yeah, we have a few spares that we run, anywhere between 3 to 5 spare trucks. But yeah, you can, when you're moving 50 of them at the same time, you can easily see that issue. A lot of it is electrical. There's so much computer and electronics on these trucks now. Obviously, in the snow and salt environment, they succumb to that situation quite often. Some mechanical breakdowns, but most of the time it's electrical or just a hydraulic system, which is something they can replace within a few hours. But yeah, I think the end of 2 weeks ago, we had 19 tickets waiting. So then the shop just triages that.
And Adam, to that point, when we have overtime and call-ins, the shop comes in as well.
Yeah, they work right
Number
along
of
with us.
mechanics we have on staff are.
8. Yeah, so they work right along with us. And then we have 2 people in the stock room that, if we can, even on the weekends, try to procure as much stuff as they can and just keep that flow moving of parts for the mechanics. So yeah, we work alongside with the shop as best we can to try to keep it moving, but a lot of it comes to triage at some point.
Great. That just begs another question for me. So the mechanics are set at different locations, like we have X amount here and then in Pittsfield,
Cool.
There's
Chelsea.
2, there's 2 at that Southeast Service Center, which is off of Michigan Avenue. And then the rest of our mechanics are here. They'll either go out on road calls if we have to get somebody in off the road, change a tire, hydraulic line, something simple we could do out on the road. Worst case, we have it towed back usually to this yard. Yeah, so they're kind of stationed there. And then we have service trucks that they can take out if they need to.
They get called, every call in we have, they get called as well as our crew. So if I call and keep people in or we pre-schedule for the morning, like this morning, all 8 crews get called or get asked to come in as well as the shop. So they're automatically on the same rotation as we are. Somebody will be in each shop if we have guys coming in to plow snow.
I'm sorry, I have another question. I drove a cherry picker, right? It's just a 1/2-ton truck. We were required to make safety checks every morning, our tires, our brakes, our lights. Is that required by? you all
Federally,
Have that
pre-trips.
book in the truck.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
you
so
sent it.
CDL law requires us to pre and post trip our heavy trucks. So yeah, everyone has to run those checks, fill out the paper, and essentially it tracks their mileage as well. And then at the post trip, so end of shift, they fill out another one and close out their day.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? No, no? Okay, anybody?
I will just add that, in the conditions that we're asked to do winter maintenance, they're brutal on equipment. It is a difficult task, and they do have, as Adam and others have brought up, the hydraulics, the electronics are all there, but they're operating in weather that nobody wants to be out in. And inevitably, something's going to break. That's why we have the in-house expertise to address it and get them back on as soon as possible. So they do a great job. There is a lot of variability in the tasks at hand, and also the resources that we have in people and equipment.
So very important to have the newer stuff we have. We buy state of the art, from our pickup truck, SUV fleet, all the way to our graders. We buy about as nice as we can find to make sure the creature comforts are there and the technology is there to keep us effective. Unfortunately, when you have electronics, you end up having that issue, and we do pretty good with it. There are some days we're staring at the floor in the shop, and there are other days where you got to line all 5 bays plus 2 or 3 trucks over here, and you got 10 people waiting to get things serviced. So we just try to stagger our crews as best we can. They talk on the radio, so if one person goes off route, then someone tries to cover for them while they're getting whatever repair they need. And so we try to keep it somewhat seamless, but sometimes inevitably the mechanical wins, but we try to beat it most of the time. We kind of talked tasks during the event about the lane miles. So now this will bring Tiffany Lobosal in a little bit to talk about some of our after event tasks. A lot of that is just restock the materials, which she's very popular in the winter for salt, sand, any abrasives. And then obviously we get the equipment cleaned up, and then Ken, Jared, and I doing after action reviews, and then looking at that forecast a little bit further. But Tiffany, I'll kind of give it to you here and get you into some of the backfilling stuff that Tiffany usually drives this. So this is stockpiling material.
Are you driving that vehicle too?
She could if we let her. Yeah, she's capable. I've seen her in one before.
I'm Tiffany Lobosal, Operations Associate. So like Adam mentioned, I am responsible for ordering material. So after events, but also looking ahead at what's coming. Because in the winter time, there's obviously such a high demand for salt. So you're kind of battling with all of the other agencies who are getting salt as well. So it kind of causes a delay in how quickly we can receive it. So we're looking at it ahead of time, just like they're preparing ahead of time for storms. That's mainly for the salt. The sand and grit abrasives, we can get those pretty quick, as well as brine.
And how many salt storage facilities just on hand, just as a reminder to all?
We have 5.
We are, and our capacity to store is, there's a lot. Is the point I'm trying to convey is want to convey to the board and to the public. We manage it, but we have ample storage in order to manage it, so that we fill it at the beginning of the season, and then ultimately, as we use it, we're very thoughtful after the events in getting orders in a timely fashion, because there is a slight delay from the time we pick up the phone and say, I need 10,000 tons of salt at various facilities. There's a delay.
And that's actually a really good point. The 2 facilities it's hardest for us to backfill and keep moving are our western areas, so District 3 and 4. Some of the feasibility study we talk about, includes that stuff future out. Good facilities, good structures, but they only hauled inherently 600 to 800 tons of salt with the other sand and abrasive we kind of put in there. And so you go through that quickly. Whereas here we could have 6,000 to 8,000 tons of material. The Southeast Service Center, same thing. The Northeast Service Center could have 4,000, almost 5,000 tons of material at any given time. So we have more space, so we can kind of, like Matt says, we can kind of endure through that delay period where we're ordering nearly weekly for these outside 2 yards, because they're just smaller buildings, and the footprint of the property isn't big enough, suitable for anything bigger right now either. But that's, through the future as we design things, we'll improve that as we go.
And if the vendors don't have availability, worst case scenario, we can always haul material from ample storage to smaller storage.
And we actually did that here a few weeks ago because we didn't want to wait. So Ken and Jared got with Tiffany, and Tiffany does the transfer in the computer. And then our heavy equipment crew took some of our dump trailers loads to District 3 and 4 to move around, even down to the Southeast Service Center, actually. So
Yeah, and I'll also mention, at the end of each season, we analyze, well, throughout the season, we're analyzing salt usage. But at the end of the season, we're looking at it from years past, and we're kind of looking at an average and then trying to go above that when we order. So we're ordering in March, we'll be ordering for next season. And this year, between what we had in stock and then what we're ordering, I think it's like 32,000 tons that we have available to receive and use. So
Do we still do that second order?
yeah, so we have our
Backfill what gets used and,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so we have our pre-fill order that usually comes in September, October-ish. And then we can start, I think it's after November 1st, getting our backfill order as much as we need.
yeah, which is referred to as season.
Yep.
They call that the season.
Nice work, keeping the cupboards full.
Tiffany drives it. She actually has some more slides that she'll talk about here a little bit later. We'll show a few other pictures, but Rod, did you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Rob.
that's okay.
You'll have to poke me if my information isn't
I got it.
picking you up.
Does the material deteriorate with age or not really?
Not typically. We use it so quickly that it doesn't usually deteriorate. If you left salt sit through humidity for years and years and years, it would really cake. That's why this salt has a little bit of a blue look to it. That's some of the anti-caking material they put on it. Just a little bit of a release to kind of keep it from caking up and making big clumps. Our newer material storage buildings, so this one out here behind us that we built a few years ago, and the Northeast Service Center, and anyone we build from now on, they actually have humidistats in them, and they'll run fan systems to get circulation through there to keep some airflow through there during the season. Because naturally, the salt, as you want it to, it's looking for moisture all the time. So in the summer, it's trying to grab humidity, anything it can get a hold of, and really pulls a bunch of moisture in there. If you go out in the salt shed, you can kind of feel it. So yeah, if you left it there a few years, it may cake up, but we cycle it. Jason Klaus, the foreman for the heavy equipment crew, actually last week finished the week out having one of our loader operators move the salt from the back of our new building here, a few thousand tons to the side of it, so we can put the new stuff in the back, run the stuff that's been there since last fall. So we try to keep that rotation, and we do that in most of the yards. The smaller yards, you have no problem because you're running through it, almost monthly.
Thank you.
Commissioner,
Thank you. I do remember
carrying
from,
out on us today.
Hey, we'll
Sorry.
help you.
I
Good
remember
news is we know
from
this stuff.
previous presentations about the brine, because we have
Yep.
our own brine well, right?
Mhm.
So do you have to order more of that? Because that goes down before, right, the salt or something or?
Yeah, so we'll shut down our well, but we still have capacity at the tank farm portion of our well where we can pull it out if we have to. But Tiffany does also get contract well brine as well. Comes from essentially the same vein, so it's nearly identical, and they charge us the same cost that we have, which is less than 50 cents a gallon, so it's pretty good. So yes, we do put orders in the winter for that as well, because we go through quite a bit of it, and we've increased that. Now all but 3 of our trucks have the liquid systems. So this year, that's kind of been our training push, is to activate that a little bit more. Because depending on how things go in the future, we may have to look to using liquid more. So we're trying to get ourselves ahead of the game a little bit and catch up to, train our people to get used to using it. Because now that we have it on every truck,
And
can
right
do that.
now, brine is used for pre-wetting.
yeah, essentially we spray it, and we'll talk about the technical, we'll touch on that real quick here, but we actually shoot it onto the salt as we drop it. It prevents the bounce and scatter. It inherently makes the salt heavier where it wants to lay down and kind of sit in place. And we'll touch on that on a couple of slides here.
Did I see your hand? No. No, now I'm seeing things.
That's all right.
I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you.
and you're all set?
I'm all.
Okay.
So these are really just a few photos. This is essentially kind of task afterwards to talk about maintaining things. Summertime picture, but still something that we may do, service, do a small repair on a grader. That's actually a new grader getting prepped from the summer. But you'll see things like that where the mechanics will take on those tasks to help. This is actually a photo of dry run preparations, but at a smaller scale that takes place in our garages as well. So when Ken and Jared and the crews get finished, they all kind of come back to the yard, dump the materials left over off, and then try to clean the vehicles, do some minor servicing, find issues that, may plague us later, see if they get it ahead of schedule and get it on the list to get repaired. Smaller scale in the means where we don't line all the trucks up, they're just in their respective parking bays, and the operators will go through that with them. Hopefully not often with the front plows on, but it does happen occasionally. And then the after action side of things, really Ken and Jared, this is something we've developed over the last few years to get even better and to kind of keep pushing us forward. This is one of our systems from our AVL to kind of see what we covered. So this is a cool little picture on a given day to see all where we went. So you see on the bottom right side of the screen where it gets a little more dense, it looks like someone's just squiggling in spots or marking out words. Those are subdivisions. So that's a concentration of effort in multiple laps through it. That's why it's a real dense like blue. And then you get out to the west where we only had to go through routes, 2 or 3 times. So that really brings into play any given day. There's that 4,000 or 5,000 miles of responsibility that the crew may travel across throughout the course of 16 hours or less. So
It's nothing for a truck to put on
250,
300 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, over New Year's, for example, New Year's Day, we had to assist in the truck I ran, 300 miles on one, it was for one route on Chelsea. I got 3 and I put 300 miles on that truck for that route.
I did some quick math just to kind of play with that a little bit. And if 55 of the trucks are running just like 200 and some miles, it's like 14,000 miles that you would put on the trucks in just a couple days.
Just winter
One snow event.
Yeah.
The snow, that was just coming up for one.
Yeah, hence why we're always coming to the deal to buy 5 new, a new grader, a new load, that's why, because we season these things and then wear them out pretty quickly. Even our pickups are, they're even decommissioning trucks that I drove just 2 years ago. Just we put so many miles on our vehicles that just in and auction off to the next, but yeah, so,
this is after, well, it says after action. Is there a way to, like if someone calls and says, well, when are they gonna clean the snow? Where are they at, in my area? Would you be able to give that information to that person, or that's not there yet?
so what we do is Tiffany could look at the mapping and see, or the communications team could pull it up. Different, could use Tiffany's.
No more Tiffany's.
I know. Before you work. So they can get that information and have a general idea of where we are in the process. We have a group text between Matt, the communications team, myself, and Ken and Jared. So they're kind of giving little blurbs, once or twice a day. We're going into subdivisions, over on the back roads today, a little bit of updates like that. So we usually have an idea where we're at in the system.
Okay.
So we can tell them, and we're usually within a few hours of even our quote, our estimate of what we are, because we don't share it live, just for the safety sake of the operators.
Right.
So we're able to narrow it down within an hour or two where we're actually.
Okay.
So.
But if there is a concern, many occasions where Jared and Ken have logged in and we're able to say, yes, we were there. In fact, we were there multiple times at this time, and be able to, report the facts of the matter.
Right.
I just did it last week, for example, communications sent over C-Click Fix, another guy called, I guess, because he thought that we had one of our county trucks went under private drive, or home association, whatever he called it, and over in Ann Arbor Township, and so he said they've been there twice. He said, we don't want this salted, and I said, well, let me look into it. So get on, look at all the trucks in that yard. Our AVL didn't show any trucks in there. It's pretty easy to tell them they were on Old Earhart, but they did not go into the private drive, or else it would be lit up. We'd be able to see where they went. So I called the gentleman back and explained to him that you probably should look for a contractor or somebody else doing that. So it's not one of our trucks. Luckily, we have AVL on our truck, so it's easy for me to say it was not our trucks. Or it was we said type of thing, and it was harder to pinpoint. Now it's pretty easy to say, no, that was not us. It must be somebody else.
There you go.
That was a good example from last week.
And that helps us get better too. We all take pride in kind of what we do. And I made the note earlier, there's more than 100 people really looking at this sometimes, like trying to make us better, whatever part of the process we're kind of going through to be good at snow and ice. So sometimes we even use this with some employees that have asked questions. I've used this example before. Should I turn left? Should I turn right? Which is better for me, which fits my route better, where we can kind of paint a picture and try to actually, track that. And then next storm, turn left instead of right and see how it lands. And there's enough of us with experience in the room that we can bring people together to make ourselves better. So it's been a good addition. It's a couple of years into it now, and we just keep finding new ways to make it better. After action reviews aren't a necessity all the time. But certainly helps us when, questions come up or we want to find a way to get better. But that's really what's proven to us that we do need to add, 1-2 routes to the system just to simplify a few things. So now we have data to kind of back that up.
Questions? Nope, we're good.
All righty. This will bring Tiffany back in a little bit again, and she kind of covered on some of these, but maybe if you want to just go over the materials we've used this year, Tiffany. Live.
Yeah, so so far up until the middle of January, we've used almost 14,000 tons of salt, nearly 2,000 tons of abrasives, which is a sand and grit material, and then 94,000 gallons of brine, and that's over 38 days of winter maintenance. And as I mentioned earlier, that we have on order and contracted to receive up to 32,000 tons of salt, and we're at 13,006. So we have plenty more to bring in.
So that note we made last year about making an evolutional change to our averages to try to help give us more buying power, that Tiffany is the one who needs that buying power in the season to make sure we have material in case we need it with these up and downs. Where we started the year out, thought we were going to be just traditional, kind of got cold early, but we thought it was going to stay, and then it kind of peaked and got warm, and then we had to do a lot of melting. And to melt the snow and ice, it takes salt. So that kind of brings us to that, which with Ken and Jared's sleep schedule, we're actually at about 45 days of winter maintenance because this is on the 14th. And we're probably another 2,000-3,000 tons of salt easily, and everything else sequentially with it as well. So we keep pretty busy. But the presentation in the winter couldn't come together. So winter kept coming and I had to make the presentation. So I went with the 14th.
Cut it off.
Yeah, I had to go with the 14th.
Let's take our marker and do.
Yeah, squeaky marker there. Did you have a question? Okay.
I think the next slide is pretty powerful.
Yeah,
you
you
can
should
see how much salt was used in December as compared to the last 5 years.
Yeah.
That was definitely a high water mark. And this is just a good marker that we've historically used. But when we talk about salt usage, that's also fuel, it's also overtime. If we have a lot of use of salt, that means there's a lot of other things going on that can make it an expensive month.
Yes.
And you can see if you look at the winter starting January all the way to December 31st, it was a much higher than average over the last few years. I don't know how it compares to a 10-year look back, but it was substantial.
Yeah, so our average has increased because Tiffany and I looked at the 10-year stuff and we have critical data. I think it's almost 20 years now. Bless you. Some of our numbers, we influence some of the numbers because we've improved our services and our responsiveness, where we've had the budget and the equipment and the people and the list goes on and on where we can do more. So we've used a little bit more. But if you look at the averages, we're around that 20,000 or a little above if it's considered kind of a bad year. But then you've seen the last few years, you almost have to subtract out 2023 because you can see in December, that's not a typo. We basically didn't use like 8 tons, I think, that month, which is absurd. But you see how the trend is going up. It'll essentially level off, and then it's going to be more weather based now that we've kind of perfected our methods a little bit. And our equipment's all consistent. I think it'll start to level off around the 30,000 area, but that will be weather dependent at that point.
Did I see your hand, Gloria?
Oh, no,
Okay.
scratch my head.
Oh, okay. Now I'm overkilling it.
I scratch my head when I have to look at these numbers sometimes. That's why.
February is the wild card, it looks like.
Yes, it is. Yeah, February keeps us busy. Sometimes it can give you a little bit of business, and then other times it's very. You see, like 23 is very minimal.
February and January. Yeah.
February, you start to see it warm up a little bit, and then even April will sneak in there sometimes on you, where you have to put some material down. And those are what we refer to as kind of salt suckers. They take a ton of material because it's heating up. We need to get rid of the ice really quick, and then get onto our next route, which would be the subdivisions or other local routes. So we wanted to kind of the highlight of the show is we really want to talk about winter maintenance training, where Ken, Jared and I and the team, foremen and any experienced operators really get to talk about this, and establish our expectations. Ken and Jared, maybe you touch on a couple of our general concepts, like keeping it dry for as long as we can and how we solve it. Each year I got a few notes if you want to talk on those.
Yeah, and as Adam said, we've set it up so that we're doing a lot of training with our 0 to 3, and we break it up from 4 to 10, and then 10 and above. So we're trying to tap into some of the experienced staff to allow us to help build the capabilities and the knowledge of our younger staff. And even during our 0 to 3 year, we bring in some of our experienced staff, our experienced foremen, to help build that knowledge and build that education. And as we continue, even we're taking some AVL videos as training tools to be able to share with these guys. And that's why, some of us are doing ride-alongs to try to build that knowledge base, to continue to build that 0 to 3 year training into something that is more useful. The first couple of years, we're just training on certain items and certain aspects of the job. And now we're trying to fine tune some of that stuff. As instances, trying to do your approaches. There's several different ways of doing approaches, but trying to streamline a general concept on how to do approach and how to approach those, because every storm event is different. And I think trying to explain, some of these guys are coming from the residential side of things where they see that they have to cover salt on the whole edge of the whole road, just like a parking lot. Well, we're trying to change that concept and change that mindset where we're working with them to put it out of the left front spinner and stuff. So small little things that we're trying to dive into, but that's where Jared and Adam, their expertise and their knowledge of winter maintenance helps out to build that program. And so that's what we're continue to doing. And we do set those general concepts, or we explain to them how we go about making the call-ins and what we have to look at. Because being a truck driver, you just see that you're getting a call at 4 a.m., but you don't understand what goes into that call, how we got to make that call, even like during the workday. And if we do a workday extension, how we're looking an hour and a half, 2 hours ahead, because that's what we have to plan. We have to anticipate what this road's going to look like. Because when the guy's got an hour to get in for an emergency call in, if they're not preloaded, that's another half an hour. So now we're an hour and a half before they get on the road. So we have to be mindful of that. And as a new hire, understanding that concept is important. And then also we do a lot of work inside the truck. We'll get some experienced foremen. They'll get in the truck, go through all the controls inside the truck. We'll do some loader training as well, and some of their basic training as a new hire to go through that. And the 4 to 10 year, it's an opportunity for those guys that have gone to 0 to 3 year. Now we're kind of point where we've gone through. Some of those guys have graduated at 0 to 3 into the 4 to 10. It's like, what did you wish you would have known those first couple of years? Some guys are like, the first time I ever got on a front plow was when I was tasked in the 0 to 3, and that was scary as heck. So now it's trying to build their knowledge and expertise of what they had and sharing that with the 0 to 3. And then those 10 plus years are opportunities that those guys, there's a lot of knowledge there, and how can we share that with the workforce? And also it's good for them to hear how others are tasking it, because we have a large area that we're plowing, but some people take different approaches and different mindsets. And it's good to have that, but it also allows us to kind of find out what is the area to streamline with that winter maintenance stuff. So I talk long-winded, but Jared, is there anything you want to?
Jared, actually, you can talk on how we bring the concept and have conversation in the room where we get to talk on. That's why I have the ranges of years, because you have a little bit of experience, but in that range where the conversation will take off. And Jared uses a good example with the 0 to 3 year group. Every time we talk about it, he'll highlight one of his old routes and talk about how he does the cul-de-sacs in the neighborhood, which is one of the hardest things we do because our trucks are big and cumbersome. How do you plow in a circle? Do you not put it in the middle? Can you put it to the outside? Like, where can you put the snow? And talk about that concept, because within minutes, then the room's talking. And we're just standing there observing and honestly learning at that point from some of the conversations or experiences. So Jared, maybe if you want to highlight real quick how you do that, how you kind of lead them into go to my route type of conversation.
But basically, that's to establish expectations, right? We try to get everybody does something a little bit different, right? Myself included. So it's hard to tell somebody, oh, you ought to do this route this way because this is how I did it. Well, that doesn't necessarily work for the next individual. There is goods and bads about doing it certain ways, but again, everybody has their own little way they do things. So to get that expectation out to all of our crews, that's countywide, we first of all kind of set an example of, okay, this is what we expect when you're doing your primary route, right? We expect you to go over and do your primary route. We expect you to get your aprons at the same time you're doing your primary route. So those are all done before we go to our next routes. So it's just trying to get people on the same page so they're doing things in the same way. They might not do they might not perform it the exact same route that you would do it, but they're getting that same job done for that expectation countywide. So it looks the same from the west side all the way to the east side. And then like when we go into our subdivision and stuff like that, it's a whole nother ballgame than it is going on a straight route here. So there's a lot of things you're looking for, right? So it's a matter of telling these guys that have never seen this before. They might get to a street where there's cars parked on both sides and you can't, and probably won't fit down there because we've had incidences where they tried to fit down there and they take off a mirror or something of that nature as well. So it's a matter of being aware of that and saying, I think this is not going to work. Calling the foreman and saying, hey, I'm going to skip this road right now because there's cars parked on both sides. It's not a good idea. I don't think I can fit down there. And then we document it. That way, if somebody calls 2 hours from now and says, you missed my road, we know why. So then we go into like our cul-de-sacs and we explain to them, each cul-de-sac we have, if you've ever gone into subdivisions, they're all different. They're all set up different. Not one of them is the same. So it's just a matter of going in there and saying, okay, this is the way I did it, and this is why I did it this way, and kind of explaining why you did it that way, and what you're looking for in there, where the best places to push that snow is, because when you push that pile of snow in this snowstorm, then we have 4 more snowstorms after that, you run out of places to push it if you don't put it in the right spot, right? That's just stuff that the new guys don't understand necessarily or have not been a part of yet. So it's just a matter of trying to say, this is kind of how you need to do it because of this. So it works out really well. I think it gets a lot of conversation going when you have people that have done it before and say, yeah, I've done it this way, and then we tried it this way, and it really worked really well, and this is why, and they tell them that. I think it helps a lot coming from other drivers as well. It's not just coming from us. This is coming from their fellow drivers that are saying, yeah, this is why, I had this route and this was really a pain in the butt. You had to go do this section first. My route here that I used to have on yard 1, I did it totally different than the guy because I knew traffic patterns wouldn't allow me to get to those roads and do a good job once they got busy, right? So I would go hit certain sections before other sections because I know it was going to get busy. And then once that's over with, you go on to the next part of your route. So it's really just getting everybody in the room and trying to go over that stuff. And then some of these new people that, if they don't feel comfortable and they have not been part of snow removal yet, it's a matter of sitting in the truck with Ken, myself, foreman, one of us usually goes and rides with them until they feel comfortable. We both have this year already. Some of them, you ride with them one snowstorm and they feel pretty good about themselves. Yeah, I think I can handle it. Other ones, I think I want somebody to ride with me a little bit longer. Okay, and you try to give them advice on where to turn around, where not to turn around, why we should do this route, start on this part of that route, what you're looking for, different dangers, that sort of stuff. So all of that kind of hands-on type training where instead of getting in a truck and just saying, here you go, here's your route, go do it, when they really don't know how to do that. So it helps a lot, it makes them feel a lot more comfortable. And hopefully it's a lot safer that way because then they figure out what to expect. So.
Commissioner McCollum.
Madam Chair, do you have someone ride along with that person when they first get in the truck?
Yeah, so we do we interview them and we set up a drive test. So that drive test is with the foreman or prospective foreman and where we're going to put them, what yard. So they get to meet the foreman, do their drive test out here. If we decide to hire them, then they'll get hired on. So this time of year, it's a little tougher because it's snowing already. If they hire them before the winter, we'll actually get them on their snow route where there's no snow on it and have them drive that with either the group leader or foreman of that nature. And then they'll go through the whole snow route multiple times while there's nothing on the ground so they can see what it is. And then we also will put somebody in the truck with them when they're first plowing snow. Like I said, Ken has been in there, I've been in there with some of these new hires until they feel comfortable doing it. I mean, like I said, usually 1 or 2 times of snowstorm, they're like, I think I got it now. I think I can handle it. Most people for the average.
Yeah, we will use, if there's guys sitting at home, we'll bring them in to ride along with some of the newer people. I think it's good to hear from somebody who's actually doing it day to day. I mean, Jared's had experience, the same with Adam, but hearing those day to day and some of those are experienced with those routes or that yard. So if we have a guy sitting at home and a newer guy in and the foreman's busy, we'll bring a guy in and have a ride along. It's more of a training session with that guy, and he gets a lot out of it, I think. And also, we've been talking about like how do we develop this program and grow this program, and looking at areas of tapping in with engineering, using the drone to do some video footage of how to do an approach. And as Jared talked about how to do a cul-de-sac, using the drone footage for some of those trainings. And also we have an absorb training session using that as like a prereq. Some of those guys having courses completing prior to the training, so they get more exposure to the absorbed training software. But also some build knowledge, so when they get in there, and also we looked at the time frame. We usually do this right after dry run, so is it suitable to do it before dry run? So it builds some knowledge leading into dry run. So it all depends on also, I mean, every year we're getting a new staff coming in and out of the door, so when we can look at the timing of that as well. So.
Questions?
We gotta cover the snow removal and the salt. There's a lot going on in that truck, right? Not just pushing the snow off the road. It's you're using your belly blades, so you're teaching them how to do that. You're teaching them how to use a wing plow and the controls in the cab. And then you're also teaching them how to spread salt, where to spread it, how much to spread, how what your spinner should be at. You know, there's a lot of variables there to try to go over with somebody. So that's why it's important to kind of cover that with them ahead of time as much as.
Commissioner Green?
So after route is handled, does someone come behind and inspect it and say, and evaluate it?
Usually the foreman or the superintendents, myself, or even the operators, other drivers will observe kind of where they're at, but most of our team kind of knows where the baseline is and kind of knows the goal for that day. An example would be some of the events, we'll tell them to go into the subdivisions and just go down the middle, where you just basically plow it open, treat down the middle just to get some salt laying there, because we know it's going to warm up. So we're not going to go curb to curb and worry about trash cans or parked cars, where we just get some bare pavement exposed for them. So that they kind of have the expectation of what it should look like when they walk away. Then other days, another example would be if it was going to be 25 degrees and we knew we had more snow coming in, we would go curb to curb and we would clear it out. So we give them that type of like designator or those keys, so they know kind of where they set before they leave. So they can kind of observe it themselves and know if they need to make another round, need to get assistance, or ask the foreman to check in. But most foremen will drive their areas anyways and check all their routes, just throughout the course of the day. So they're kind of plugged in with them, and they start to learn their people's skills and weaknesses as well, if they have that, to try to help guide them through things.
Yeah, and the foreman provide feedback, so just push your shoulders back or make sure you slush off one more time. And also the foreman are very sensitive to knowing that those guys are newer on their routes, so they're paying a little more attention to that. And also other drivers are driving through their routes, so the guys will help others on their team as well. So, and Jared and I are driving through, and you can see if they take one pass on the road, by the time they take their second pass, they can see if that first pass is working. And that's what we're working with, is try to those little things to look for. So you're very observant to see if you can make adjustments on the fly, and you're not just doing your whole route one way and then find out I should have made adjustments. So those are the small things we're working with them in this classroom setting as well.
The radio's always on. Somebody's always talking to somebody on the radio, trying to help with that.
Question, did people get their cars off the road in the subdivisions this year? No. Universally so, or there are?
Some are worse,
Hotspots.
I think some are worse than others,
Yeah.
but in general, people see the snow, they know we're gonna come in there. I think a lot of people purposely park in there because they don't want snow in their driveway. If you ever watch, they always park to the left, they always pull it to the left of their driveway 90% of the time, because they want you to go out and around their car so you don't push snow into the driveway. That's what a lot of it is.
Strategic.
Yeah, it depends on if the kids are home from school, if schools are off, we've seen an uptick on traffic inside subdivisions, but nothing drastically has changed from years past.
It's not any worse,
Yeah.
so we're maintaining.
And again, sometimes we skip those parked cars and we'll come back with different equipment, light trucks with plows.
The light truck fleet has definitely helped our citizens and stuff. At any given storm, we have a ton of light fleet going out to and helping push cul-de-sacs and all that sort of stuff, because they're much more maneuverable in those tight areas.
But then we just have to spread salt with a truck, and that's relatively simplistic because you're just driving through, you're not trying to plow around things. For any other questions, I'll touch real quick just on general concepts that we talk about, but this is good terminology for the board to have as well. So in your photos here, maybe kind of small, but on the screens, you can see some of the terms we use. So you have bare pavement on the top left. That's essentially like we're in a pretty good place. We may push the shoulders back, and then we're probably going to be able to go home at 3:30. So if we had bare wheel pass on the top right, that would be a situation where we would probably stay till dark, because we'd keep working on that and plowing that. Maybe not treat it because it's dry and it's kind of good for us in that aspect, but we'd probably stay and work on that and maybe treat it one time before the rush hour this afternoon, so to speak, to try to see if we can get that melting and drying effect going. The bottom left, plowed and treated. So you can see this kind of spotty little areas there where it's still kind of wet. You see some of the white where that's not snow, that's salt residue. Where you've got your shoulders pushed back, where you're in a pretty good place where it's in short order will be the top left resemblance. Then the bottom right, plowed the snowpack. This is usually what a subdivision looks like. Little exaggerated with the high stack snow there, unless we had multiple vents or something, but you will get in there and there will be hard packed. Some of the subdivisions look like that right now because cold, dry conditions. We're gonna let them sit. We don't want to try to melt it. There's no way we get enough salt and brine down to get it to melt, and then it would freeze back very quickly with the temperatures and the wind we've been facing. So we kind of leave them at snowpack at that point, and then get to that point where I referred to earlier, where we may just go down the middle and just try to start exposing a little bit of pavement. Then you get some decent temperature, some good sunlight, and the subdivisions open up a lot quicker. Open up as in clear out a lot quicker than you think. Just with the concentration where you put the salt right in one spot. So, and then just some of the things we talked about the group. So we touched on this earlier. Anti-icing. So that's essentially you're prepping as you're. So that would be something we'll do with our new tanker that we're going to get. We're going to try to experiment with that the next year or so, where we'd actually apply some brine prior to the event and try to utilize that. So you'll hear us call it like pre-treating. Would be a common term that's used throughout the state or really throughout the nation. And then pre-wetting is what Matt referred to. This truck here is plowing that ribbon there in the middle of the lane and also treating at the same time. They would be using the pre-wet system and applying that liquid right to the salt. So you're pre-wetting it before it hits the ground. And then de-icing is also in that frame here in this picture because that's the process of melting the snow and the ice off the road. That's our normal day-to-day treating the material or treating the roads with the salt and abrasion. Yeah.
What does pre-wetting do?
So pre-wetting is where you utilize the brine and you spray it onto the salt. It has kind of two very important parts. The first part is it actually adds physical weight and density to the salt. So it makes it heavier. So when it hits the road, it doesn't want to bounce and scatter is the term they use. It will lay down a little bit better because it's got a little bit of moisture on it. It's heavier. Brine weighs 11 and some pounds per gallon as opposed to water weighing like 8.32 gallons or pounds per gallon. So it's naturally heavier, denser stuff. You weigh that salt down, it'll sit down there a little bit better. Gives us an opportunity to plow at speed and treat at speed. Because if you do dry salt at 20 mile an hour, you'll lose 70%, 80% of your salt. You'll be throwing it all over the place, even with your spinner going nice and slow. And we kind of coach that in the training. But for the sake of 6 hours worth of talking about it, I'll help with that part. We try to tell them to keep the spinner down slow, so it's not going really fast. And then we put that pre-wet on it, so it's very heavy when it hits the ground. The second, which is just equally as important, but first you got to keep it on the road. So that's why it's important to have it heavier so it stays, it doesn't bounce away. But it actually, the brine that we use has magnesium, sodium, and calcium chloride in it, so it's very powerful. It actually will activate the salt. And so it starts that salt process of grabbing moisture. So it's kind of a kickstart to get it going a little quicker. So in a picture like this, where it's not hard pack, it's just, you just need to get the road melted because you have favorable conditions. You want that salt to act faster. So the pre-wet will do that. It'll activate that salt. So it gives our crews another kind of shot, so to speak, in the arm, more potent material to put down. And it's essentially free to us at this agency at some point. So it's very good. We can spray it off as much as we want and really benefit from it without hardly spending any money.
Thank you.
And then obviously snow plowing, we touched on that in this photo. We're using the belly blade there to scrape off the road and just plowing the snow. Not deployed the wing here just because of there's no necessity for it at that point. You're just trying to get it off the lane at that point. And then our different types of plows. Normally Ken and Jared will kind of coach this to the group, but I'll help us here with this. We have on the left side of your picture, that's our kind of traditional county high-speed wind plow, they refer to it. That's a fixed plow. It doesn't turn. It just has that funnel. The reason it's funneled out like that is so when you're moving at speed on an unpaved road, you can get the snow and the drifts up and over mailboxes so you don't destroy them. If you were to use primarily a truck in the middle, but that's a power angle plow, those are a little shorter and they have a tighter curl to them. If you plowed with those in the country, you'd be pushing so much snow directly off the side, you would basically saw through the mailboxes because you just have a mass of snow hitting it, and we want to get it up and off the road. They have little wings there you see on each side where we adjust the angles when we take them on the back road so we can get the snow to get up and get out of the way. But if you use one that was just curled over and no wings like that, you'd inflict more issue than you would good. And then on the right side, that's a V plow. That also is a fixed plow. That goes on our motor graders. And we have a few for some of our dump trucks. These are more like a rural areas where we have heavy drifting. That V plow is just like you see it on a train or on a locomotive. You're just trying to cut through the initial drift or the initial hole of snow, make a little hole through it. And then you come back with other plows or equipment and start stacking that out a little bit. You've seen probably quite a few of our photos. We have some good photos when District 4 was plowing drifts with one of the plows in the grader. So it moves a lot of snow really quick, but it's essentially just to cut a hole in it, and you have to bring somebody back to do the other part of it for you.
You don't need them often, but when you do, they're worth their weight in gold.
Yes.
A V plow.
And that's why some of ours are from 1963 and older.
Really?
Because, yeah, we've had.
I've used them one time since I've been plowing. I've
Yeah.
used them one time on a tandem.
Yeah.
But it was the only way we got through it. We tried with the right-hand plow with two different trucks and we got stuck multiple times. I'd come back, I put a V plow on it and we punched through it, but they're worth their weight in gold. I only used one time, but we had to have it.
And they last forever, so that's a good thing. We just paint them up every year and off we go. Now also plows, we have wing plows. Ken alluded that a little bit earlier. We have 70 or more wing plows throughout the county deployed right now. We buy every truck as it sits right now because we put them in the state trunk line. Every truck comes with 2 plows, and then we just demobilize portions of it. So we usually take off the left side when it goes out to a county route. Pretty simply, just pull the materials off the side of it, and then the frame mount is the same that's needed on both sides. So we just leave that on the truck for the winter time, and off we go. So we can kind of dual purpose those. Then the left wing plows can be reused. So you can get 10, 15 years out of a wing plow before you really get to a point of having to replace that. So we usually buy 3 to 5 plows a year, whether it be right or left side, depending on what our needs are. And then we try to repurpose ones and put them on different trucks. So it's a bit of a dance. But we've had some wing plows around for some good time now. So now we're 10, 12 years into it. Actually probably a little bit closer to 15 years into it with wing plows. So we're starting to replace them a little bit as we go. They get fatigued, they get old. They've made a few improvements that keep them on the truck better and less strain on the truck and the plow itself. So we've started to retrofit some of those as we've purchased here the last couple of years.
Adam, can you speak on that saddle tank as well? That's where the brine.
Yeah, actually, thank you, Matt. That's a good point. So the white tank here in the photo is actually, that's our brine, one of our brine tanks. So we have about 320 gallons, give or take. Not that I know the math, but not that much on each side of the truck. So that's why we call them saddle tanks. That gives us that little capacity. I'd love to be able to get to 1,000 gallons per truck. We tried it with the trucks we got this year, and they can't physically fit the bigger tanks that I'm used to from where I worked before. We can't fit them on this body style. So we'll work with 600 or so gallons and we'll be okay there.
And if you could zoom back out,
Yep.
you can see on the lower right-hand corner is the spinner.
Yep.
Which the salt comes out of, and then there's a nozzle there, where they're the pre-wet.
Kind of hidden there. I apologize. It's on the bottom right side of the screen there, but yeah, so that's some of the things we've talked about here. But wing plows are immense time savers. The development of the wing plow and deployment of the wing plow in this county and those radios discharge bottom trucks there. So basically the round bottom truck bed that you see there, that's the shiny silver part. And those tanks have completely evolutionized the way this agency's done snow and ice over the last 10 or 15 years. We're in a good place and we just keep growing it to get better. So all the board support to buy this really good high-tech equipment that we've been getting is good. A lot of agencies use it, but I'm partial, but we use it pretty good here. So we keep all these trainings and conversations. We try to keep making everybody better, and we find something better, then we go get it. If we need to buy something different, we make changes. But right now we're in a pretty good place for winter maintenance. And this is Ken and Jared's slide. We always tell everybody in dry run and training, If you're not preparing, you're preparing to fail. So I love this picture. This is something we took a long time ago, that I took with Emily, but it's a pretty cool picture of us just prepped, for a bigger event. But Ken and Jared, do you want to touch on some of the notes you kind of tell the crews in these moments? This is usually our last slide for our trainings.
Yeah, I think just driving home the point of the importance of the sacrifice that we all have to make during winter maintenance. I mean, Jared and I are available 24/7 every single day. Don't matter. You call us, we're going to answer. And that's the expectations we have for everyone else. And it is a countless job. We're here a lot sometimes, but a lot of it is that's what we hired in here for. And that's what we drive home the point is that if you're not here, there's no one else can do your job. So it falls on everyone else. And I think that's driving on the heritage of what the road commission is that's what we've done is we take care of the roads. And in wintertime, that's our job. And we drive home that point and the importance of us constantly being available. And it wears on you. It's a lot of work, but that's what we sign up for. So that's what we drive home the point with the newer guys. And I think for the most part, we're doing really well. There's a lot of guys that take a lot of pride in what they do here. And that's especially with this picture. I mean, that's a cool picture to see. And for some of us that have been here long enough, you can see what that picture looked like 10 years ago. And it's significantly different. So, I mean, with the newer equipment and the newer workforce that we have, it's just driving home that point of what we do and the importance of it. So, Jared?
Yeah, I mean, that's biggest thing about being prepared, I feel like, is it takes so much time to do this, to get to this point. So instead of doing it during a storm, we're doing it ahead of time, right? That's what the picture shows. That this was the night before, everybody's ready, everybody comes in, they punch in, they do their pre-trip, they grab their cooler or whatever they gotta grab for their lunch, and they get in their truck and they head out the door, right? Instead of taking an hour to get everything loaded and ready to go to get out there. So you're out there before the public is even, most of them are not on the road yet, right? And again, we all make sacrifices. We reiterate that time and time again to everybody, older and newer guys. It starts in their interview. When we interview somebody, we tell them what the expectations are, what we expect out of them, that this is, you're on call kind of 24/7. If Mother Nature decides she doesn't want to cooperate, you're gonna get a phone call. It might be Christmas morning, it might be New Year's, it might be during your birthday, it might be whenever. And we expect you to answer the phone and to come in. We all do it. It's all part of our job. If we're not here to do that job, nobody is. And then everybody starts asking questions on how come the roads aren't done. So it's hard when people don't want to come in. It's difficult because you're trying to cover 2 and 3 different routes with people. You're trying to stretch those routes out. It makes it very difficult when people don't want to come in. But we get it, no matter what, we always get it done. So that's what we try to tell people. We need you here to get it done more efficiently. We're going to get it done with or without somebody, but it's easier when everybody's here because we get done quicker and do a better job.
And also, this is not it's a very dangerous work we do sometimes. And when we're driving the conditions we drive in, especially yesterday with the snow squalls, when we have these big icing conditions, we're the ones that are first ones out there. And so we drive that home with the workforce that this is a very dangerous job at times. So be very respectful and be mindful of that equipment. We're giving you a very nice piece of equipment that is expensive to operate. So be respectful, be mindful, know your limitations. If there's times that you're uncomfortable, that's when you work with others around you. As a team, we always get the job done. And Adam always jokes that the snow would melt in April, and he hasn't been wrong since. So
That one, right?
yeah.
Yeah, ultimately, road commission is a first response. Because if the roads aren't passable, EMS and police can't do their jobs either. So that's the importance of driving that home. We have that ultimate responsibility to clear the way.
They call us. That's answering service calls us, right? That's what the bottom line is. We get the phone call saying the fire department requests you for here, or the police department requests you for this, for ice. So we have to do our job for them to do their job. That's what there's no other way around it.
And our reputation precedes us. We've done great. We've, over the last 10 or so years, really started to pick it up. So there's a lot of dedicated people to it and to our profession, and we're good. Our reputation is well known for that as well. And we have good communication and coordination with other first responder and essential groups. They hold us in high regard. So we keep building it. And a lot of it starts from this group and works its way down, but everybody else supports us. We get board support to buy equipment, to make sure we have salt in the salt buildings. We're in a very good place. We're proud of what we do, and we just keep pushing to get better each day we can. So that, any questions? I know we've kind of had a bunch, but, yeah.
Go ahead. Did you say you call people during vacation?
Yeah, we call, no matter if it's Christmas break, New Year's break, any sort of vacation we have out here, doesn't mean we necessarily won't be called in.
Okay.
And there's times that our employees will be back from vacation by 2 or 3 in the afternoon or something, and so they may be available later on in the afternoon, or they come back early, so we at least call them to keep them in the loop with what's going on.
So how do we handle that? Like pay grade, do they get to choose to use vacation day different? Or do you pay them their vacation time and then overtime on top of that? How do we?
Oh,
handle
if they were to come in,
Yeah,
if they were to come in, they would just be paid the overtime if it's outside of working hours. And then if they decided to cancel their leave to come in, or they got back a day ahead and wanted to come to work the next day, and just, they save their leave time, and then they just get paid straight pay if it's regular hours.
On Christmas, for example, if you're talking about during the day, that 8-hour shift, they would get paid their holiday 8 hours plus their time and a half,
okay.
if that answers that.
Good news is it's all written in the contract.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and contractually is why we have to call.
Okay.
So we try to keep it.
So you have you have a call-in process. Is that outlined in the contract or you have something else?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the contract.
Very much so.
Thank you. That's pretty much all I have. You guys did a great job.
Anything else?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you is not adequate, but thank you.
Yeah.
To them, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Pass it along if you would, please.
Of course.
All right. Mr. Managing Director.
That concludes us. We're a little over, so,
Okay,
allow for a little break before our 1 o'clock meeting.
okay. Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Commissioner Rod Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Joanne McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Gloria Yamas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Smurs.
Yes.
Commissioner Barb Fuller.
Yes, we are adjourned. See everybody at 1 o'clock for our regular meeting.